Chapter 1924. Ning Lu and Hong Mo thought that this would be the end of Ning Yu's advancement to the early-stage human immortal realm. To their surprise, Ning Yu's aura continued to rise. Crack! Under the pressure of Ning Yu's powerful aura, the surrounding void began to crackle. Ning Lu's mouth was agape, his face filled with disbelief. Hong Mo, who was at the side, stood rooted to the ground with a dumbfounded expression. Both of them were extremely confused. Logically speaking, the medicinal power of the five-finger immortal pill shouldn't be that strong. Ning Yu had used the medicinal power of the five-finger immortal pill to temper his body, increasing his physical strength to the peak human immortal realm. The remaining medicinal power of the five-finger immortal pill wasn't at its peak. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu was still able to break through consecutively. It was unbelievable. Ning Lu and Hong Mo weren't the only ones who found it unbelievable. Ning Yu himself was in disbelief too. Is there something strange about this five-finger immortal pill? Ning Yu's expression turned solemn. He had already determined the grade of the five-finger immortal pill after using it to temper his body. A 10th grade Emperor grade pill was only a step away from becoming a sacred grade pill. If it was a real sacred grade pill, its effects would be obvious. Even if a portion of the medicinal power was used up, Ning Yu would still be able to advance to the mid-stage human immortal realm easily. However, the medicinal power of a 10th grade Emperor grade pill wouldn't be able to last until Ning Yu reached the mid-stage human immortal realm. Buzz. While Ning Yu was feeling confused, the Yuan Qi and the five-finger immortal pill cauldron flew toward him. I got it. The arrival of countless essence Qi made Ning Yu instantly understand the ins and outs of the matter. The reason the five-finger immortal was furious about losing the five-finger immortal pill wasn't because it was a 10th grade Emperor grade pill, but because it was the key to controlling the five-finger immortal pill cauldron. To be exact, the five-fingered immortal had placed the key to controlling the five-fingered cauldron in the five-fingered immortal pill. Now that Ning Yu had swallowed the five-finger immortal pill, he could naturally control the five-finger pill cauldron. However, at this time, Ning Yu did not have time to think about how to control the five-fingered alchemy furnace. What he needed to do now was to do everything possible to improve his cultivation. Ning Lu, Hong Mo, the inside of the cauldron is safe. Go help Human Devil and see if you can capture that giant puppet alive. Ning Yu immediately sat down cross-legged and instructed Ning Lu and the Red Devil while devouring the remaining medicinal efficacy of the five-finger elixir in his body and the primordial qi that surged over. Multitasking. Ever since he advanced to the early human immortal stage, Ning Yu could even multitask 4 times without a problem, let alone 3 times. After all, human immortal level experts could already be called immortals. The five-fingered alchemy furnace is already safe? To be honest, Ning Lu and Hong Mo were very confused when they heard Ning Yu's instructions. They had only killed a clone of the five-fingered immortal. Who knew if the five-fingered immortal had any other tricks up his sleeves? Why would Ning Yu say that the five-fingered alchemy furnace was safe? The key to controlling the five-fingered alchemy furnace is the five-fingered immortal pill. Ning Yu, who could see the doubts in their eyes, explained in a deep voice, "The five-fingered alchemy furnace is now under my control." Whoosh! Ning Lu and Hong Mo were relieved by Ning Yu's words. Since Ning Yu was in control of the five-fingered alchemy furnace, there was no point for them to stay any longer. Human Devil was still fighting the giant puppet, so the two of them could free up their hands to help. Although their cultivation had not reached the human immortal stage, it was not a problem for them to control the giant puppet from the side. Swish! Swish! With a flash, Ning Lu and the Red Fiend disappeared. Break through! After Ning Lu and Hong Mo left, Ning Yu hurriedly used the spiritual transformation art to the extreme and began to devour the remaining medicinal efficacy of the five-fingered immortal pill and the surrounding primordial qi. However, Ning Yu had not devoured for long before he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His body was on the verge of collapsing. Oh no, the medicinal efficacy of the five-fingered immortal pill has completely exploded. Ning Yu's face was extremely gloomy. It was obvious that the five-fingered immortal knew that he had devoured the five-fingered immortal pill. However, the five-fingered immortal did not want him to devour the five-fingered immortal pill peacefully. Therefore, he completely detonated the medicinal efficacy of the five-fingered immortal pill, causing it to completely explode in Ning Yu's body. If Ning Yu's cultivation had been at the Earth Immortal stage, then the detonation of the five-fingered immortal pill would have been fine. After all, he could instantly devour the five-fingered immortal pill. However, the problem was that Ning Yu was only at the early stage of the human immortal stage. There was still a long way to go before he could reach the mid-stage of the human immortal stage. Moreover, the spiritualization skill was only at the 9th level. Therefore, the speed at which he devoured the medicinal efficacy of the five-fingered immortal pill and the primordial qi was relatively slow. I must cultivate the spiritualization skill to the 10th level. Ning Yu made a prompt decision and decided to use his body to withstand the impact of the primordial qi and the medicinal efficacy. As for himself, he would focus on cultivating the spiritualization skill. Although the speed at which the first 9 levels of the spiritualization skill devoured primordial qi was fast, it was far from enough for Ning Yu. The cultivation of the 10th level of the spiritualization skill was imminent. He could not rush the cultivation of the 10th level of the spiritualization skill. Ning Yu first took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. Then, Ning Yu went through the cultivation method of the 10th level of the spiritualization skill in his mind before he began to cultivate. Fortunately, Ning Yu had cultivated the spiritualization skill to the peak of the 9th level, so he was not too far away from the 10th level. Moreover, his soul force was at the first-grade monarch stage and his cultivation was at the early stage of the human immortal stage. Therefore, it only took him a few seconds to successfully cultivate the 10th level of the spiritualization skill. Otherwise, he estimated that he would need at least an hour to successfully cultivate the 10th level of the spiritualization skill. Devour everything. After cultivating the spiritualization skill to the 10th level, Ning Yu's confidence instantly increased. He exerted the spiritualization skill to the extreme and began to devour madly. Qi. As the primordial qi in his body increased, Ning Yu's body emitted a qi sound. Fortunately, this sound did not last for too long. When Ning Yu advanced to the mid-stage of the human immortal stage, it stopped abruptly. Rumble! A terrifying aura shot out from Ning Yu's body into the sky. Mid-stage of the human immortal stage. Ning Yu's cultivation had reached the terrifying mid-stage of the human immortal stage. Only a few minutes had passed since Ning Yu advanced to the early stage of the human immortal stage. From the early stage to the mid-stage of the human immortal stage in just a few minutes, Ning Yu had created another miracle. Of course, Ning Yu had created many miracles, so it was no longer surprising. There's still so much primordial qi. Chapter 1925. Now, Ning Yu was faced with two choices. First, he could devour and refine all the yuan qi and the remaining medicinal effects of the five-finger immortal pill. In this way, his cultivation should be able to reach the peak of the human immortal stage without any suspense. However, this was also very risky. After all, Ning Yu had made successive breakthroughs on the same day. His cultivation had not stabilized and was still fluctuating. If he were to break through to the peak of the human immortal stage now, there was a high possibility that the yuan qi in his body would become chaotic. It was not a wise move. Second, he could stop cultivating immediately and find a way to store all the yuan qi and medicinal effects as his trump card. With such a large amount of elemental qi, if handled properly, it could even be used to launch a sneak attack on an intermediate Earth immortal expert. In other words, with so much yuan qi, Ningyu had the ability to kill a mid-stage Earth Immortal stage martial artist. After all, any intermediate earthly immortal realm expert possessed numerous trump cards, and it was as difficult as ascending the heavens to kill them. Black bead. Ningyu did not think for too long. He took out the black bead that he had taken from Mo Qianye. In Ningyu's opinion, since the black bead could store origin energy, it could definitely store so much yuan qi and the remaining medicinal effects of the five-finger immortal pill. Go in. After taking out the black bead, Ningyu immediately used his soul power to control the yuan qi around him to enter the black bead. This seemed easy, but it was actually quite difficult to do. If it was not for Ningyu's current cultivation, terrifying physical strength, and powerful soul power, he would not have been able to complete this task. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In order to store all the yuan qi and the remaining medicinal effects of the five-finger immortal pill into the black bead, Ningyu could be said to have expended Herculean effort. From the moment Ningyu decided to store yuan qi to the moment he stored all the yuan qi into the black bead, it took him a total of 10 minutes. Ningyu heaved a sigh of relief when he had successfully stored all the primordial qi into the black pearl. He looked as if he had been relieved of a heavy burden. If someone was next to Ningyu at this time, they would definitely see that Ningyu's whole body was soaked in sweat, and bean-sized beads of sweat were dripping down his forehead. In order to store this vital energy, Ningyu was almost exhausted. Whoosh! After tossing the black bead into his storage ring, Ningyu sat down with his legs crossed and began to circulate a spell technique to recover. Although Ningyu wanted to help Human Demon and the others, he was well aware of his own situation. At this moment, even a random sage-level warrior could easily kill him. Therefore, his top priority was to recover to his peak state as soon as possible, not to help the demonic humans. While Ningyu was recuperating on the other side of the battlefield, the scales of victory were tilting in the Human Demon's favor. Because Ning Lu and the Red Fiend had already joined the battlefield. Originally, Human Demon had the upper hand. Now, with the addition of two new forces, he was like a tiger that had grown wings. Ning Lu and the Red Fiend restrained the puppet from the side, while Human Demon attacked from the front. Although Human Demon's cultivation was only at the middle stage of Earth Immortal, he used to be a Sky Immortal expert. Against a puppet of the same cultivation level, especially with Ning Lu and the Red Fiend holding it back, it naturally wasn't too difficult. Human Demon stomped on the ground, his body rose into the air, and rushed toward the giant puppet. Clenching his right hand into a fist, Human Demon punched the giant puppet's head without hesitation. Crack! A crisp sound rang out. Following that, the Human Demon quickly retreated while the giant puppet crashed into the ground. If it weren't for Ningyu's order to capture the giant puppet alive, Human Demon's punch would have been enough to flatten the giant puppet's head. Of course, even if Human Demon could flatten the giant puppet's head, he wouldn't be able to kill it. This was because there were only two ways to kill the giant puppet. One was to use brute force to blow it up, and the other was to destroy the puppet's core. Guard me, I'm going to set up a formation to capture. Human Demon immediately shouted at Ning Lu and the Red Fiend after sending the giant puppet flying. However, Human Demon's expression changed drastically as soon as he finished speaking. Rumble. That was because a terrifying sound suddenly rang in his ears. Then, the entire cauldron began to shake. What's going on? The sudden change caused Human Demon's pupils to shrink, his face full of confusion. Whoosh! At this moment, Ningyu suddenly opened his eyes and took a step forward, landing beside Human Demon. Someone's attacking the cauldron. Since Ningyu had control over the cauldron, he naturally knew why it was shaking. The cauldron is already under your control, and its path has also deviated. So why is there still someone attacking it? The Red Fiend asked. If I've guessed correctly, the one attacking the cauldron should be the five-fingered immortal's disciple, Ningyu said with a grave expression. The five-fingered immortal's disciple? Hearing Ning Yu's words, the Red Fiend and Ning Lu's eyes narrowed. According to Mo Qianye, the five-fingered immortal had a total of 5 disciples. Even the weakest one was in the intermediate earthly immortal realm. Even his eldest disciple was infinitely close to the heavenly sovereign realm. Russell. In an instant, Ning Lu and the Red Fiend shifted their gazes to Human Demon. With Ning Yu's overall strength, he might be able to confront and even kill an early earthly immortal realm cultivator. But facing an intermediate earthly immortal realm cultivator, he shouldn't be able to escape unscathed. That also meant that in the entire cauldron, only Human Demon could kill an intermediate earthly immortal realm cultivator. How many people are out there? Human Demon asked. At this moment, Human Demon could feel the tension in the air. Having just experienced a great battle, although he had firmly suppressed the giant puppet, it would still take him a few more minutes to control it and make it work for him. And it was obvious that no one would be able to fight for him in these few minutes. 2. Ning Yu took a deep breath and said to the human devil, "Throw the giant puppet into the deepest part of the cauldron. I will activate the array inside the cauldron to trap it. Next, you and I will go out to fight the 2 experts outside." "You'll go out with me?" Human Demon was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect Ning Yu to say such a thing. If the 2 people outside were the five-fingered immortal's disciples, then their cultivation would at least be in the intermediate earthly immortal realm, and they would have many trump cards. Ning Yu was a peak sage. No. Suddenly, Human Demon's eyes narrowed. His face was filled with shock. His attention had been focused on the giant puppet and the 2 experts outside. He didn't notice that Ning Yu had advanced to the intermediate earthly immortal realm. Human Demon sized up Ning Yu. The more he looked, the more shocked he became. Not only had Ning Yu's cultivation reached the intermediate earthly immortal realm, but his physique had also reached a terrifying level. Chapter 1926. You've actually advanced to the mid-stage human immortal stage. The Human Demon was shocked. He remembered very clearly that it had only been an hour or so since he and Ning Yu parted ways. An hour wasn't short, but it wasn't long either. It was a miracle that Ning Yu could advance to the mid-stage human immortal stage from the peak sage stage in an hour. It was an almost impossible miracle. "I'll deal with the 2 martial artists myself." The Human Demon's shock didn't last for long. He quickly turned to Ning Yu and said, "Since you can control the 5 Fingers Cauldron, why don't you stay here? When I'm fighting with the 2 martial artists outside, you can take the cauldron and leave." The Human Demon's plan was simple. He would hold back the 2 experts outside and buy enough time for Ning Yu. In his opinion, even if Ning Yu had advanced to the mid-stage human immortal stage, his strength wouldn't be too strong. With Ning Yu's current strength, it wouldn't be too difficult for him to deal with an early-stage Earth immortal stage expert. However, it would be extremely difficult for him to deal with a mid-stage or even a late-stage Earth immortal stage expert. "Do you think you can still leave now?" Ning Yu took a deep breath. He ignored the Human Demon's thoughts and leaped out of the 5 Fingers Cauldron. "Damn it!" The Human Demon cursed under his breath when he saw Ning Yu leave. He then followed closely behind Ning Yu. Ning Yu was only a mid-stage human immortal stage expert. The Human Demon didn't want Ning Yu to die for nothing. "How dare you steal Master's 5 Fingers immortal pill? I have to say you're really bold." Outside the 5 Fingers Cauldron, 2 martial artists stared at the Human Demon as he shot out of the cauldron and said in a low voice. The attention of these 2 martial artists was completely focused on the Human Demon. After all, Ning Yu was only a mid-stage human immortal stage expert. He wasn't worthy of their attention. "So what if I did?" The human devil took a step forward, shielding Ning Yu behind him, and said in a cold voice, "You 2 intermediate Earth immortal cats and dogs are not enough to make me compromise." The 2 cultivators who blocked the way didn't hide their cultivation, so the human devil could easily see through their cultivation. They were both intermediate Earth immortal experts. The human demon's worry was greatly alleviated when he found out that the two cultivators blocking his way were at the intermediate Earth immortal realm. As long as there weren't any late Earth immortal experts, he and Ning Yu might be able to contend against them. I alone am enough to kill trash like you. The human demon's goading had clearly worked. One of the middle-aged men took a step forward and said in an awe-inspiring voice, "This day next year will be the anniversary of your death." Swords were drawn, and the battle was on the verge of breaking out. But right at this moment, Ning Yu hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Who are the two of you? Quickly tell me your names. I, Ning Yu, don't kill nameless people." Five-Finger Immortals' fifth disciple, Chu Feng. Five-Finger Immortals' fourth disciple, Chu Yu. The two intermediate Earth immortal experts replied in unison. "Senior human demon, you deal with Chu Feng. Leave Chu Yu to me." Ning Yu thought for a moment, then said to the human demon, "Remember not to kill them immediately. If you can capture them alive, don't kill them." Arrogant! Arrogant! Ning Yu's words infuriated Chu Feng and Chu Yu. Ever since they descended from the higher planes, they had never met a worthy opponent due to their powerful cultivation and terrifying soul power. Originally, they wanted to meet up with the Five-Finger Immortal in the Myriad Demon Ridge. But halfway there, they received news that the Five-Finger Immortal's immortal pill had been stolen. Thus, the two of them volunteered to kill those rascals. As for the other three disciples, they continued to head to the Myriad Demon Ridge to find a way to meet up with the Five-Finger Immortal. Swoosh! Chu Feng and Chu Yu obviously would not fight according to Ning Yu's arrangement. Both of them charged at the human demon, intending to kill him together. After all, in their hearts, Ning Yu was only an intermediate human immortal. How strong could he be? Therefore, their plan was to get rid of the human demon first, then deal with Ning Yu. However, while dreams were plentiful, reality was harsh. How could Ning Yu let the human demon deal with two of them at once? He hurriedly took out the red demon's sword and slashed at Chu Yu. Swoosh! A terrifying sword gleam separated from the red demon's sword and headed straight for Chu Yu. Even though Ning Yu was only an intermediate human immortal, the power of his sword radiance was enough to kill an early Earth immortal. Even though Chu Yu was an intermediate Earth immortal, he could not ignore the sword radiance that was powerful enough to kill an early Earth immortal. "I'll go kill this guy first." Chu Yu's expression was cold as she said to Chu Feng, "Haha, let's compete and see who can get rid of the opponent first." Chu Feng was not flustered by Ning Yu's terrifying strength. Instead, he threw his head back and laughed. Not only were they the disciples of the Five-Finger Immortal, but they were also well-deserved geniuses in their families. On the other hand, the Chu family was also a force that ruled over a region in the higher planes. Even though there were no heaven immortals in the family, there had been heaven immortals in the family a long time ago. The geniuses of the heaven immortal family practiced the real immortal arts and had a complete set of Taoist teachings. It was even rumored that Chu Feng and Chu Yu were qualified to be listed on the longevity roll in their own territories. Of course, that was not the case for now. Rumble! In an instant, Chu Feng and the human demon were engaged in a fierce battle. As soon as they clashed, Chu Feng noticed something wrong with the human demon. "So you're injured?" Chu Feng raised his eyebrows and said sinisterly, "It seems like you're the same as us, also from a high-level plane. Moreover, your strength isn't bad. If you hadn't met me, you might have been able to keep your life. But since you've met me, you can only blame your bad luck." The human demon's injuries were not new. They were left from a long time ago when he fought with a heaven immortal. If the human demon was not injured, even 10 Chu Feng would not be his match. "Even though I'm injured, killing you is as easy as killing a dog." The human demon forced Chu Feng back and said coldly, "Ha ha ha!" As if he had heard the funniest joke in the world, Chu Feng threw his head back and laughed maniacally. Then, he changed the topic and said fiercely, "I was going to let you live, but since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Swoosh. As soon as he finished speaking, Chu Feng stomped on the ground and dashed forward again. Swoosh. Chu Feng's speed was so fast that the friction between him and the air produced a sizzling sound. Although Chu Feng was only a mid-stage Earth Immortal, his overall strength was comparable to that of a late-stage Earth Immortal. It was said that when Chu Feng had just advanced to mid-stage Earth Immortal, he had challenged a late-stage Earth Immortal elder in the family. There was no suspense in the outcome. Chapter 1927. To be able to defeat a late-stage Earth Immortal expert in one move, even if that expert was not very talented, it was enough to show how terrifying Chu Feng was. Now that Chu Feng was fighting the human demon in his peak state, how could his combat power be weak? Rumble. The battle instantly escalated. Heaven imprisoning fist. The human demon clenched his right fist and charged at Chu Feng instead of retreating. Only the brave would win. Even though the human demon knew that Chu Feng was very strong, he was once a Sky Immortal expert, so his combat experience was many times greater than Chu Feng's. Therefore, even if Chu Feng was slightly stronger than him, he would not be able to defeat him in a short period of time, let alone kill him. While the human demon and Chu Feng were fighting fiercely, the battle between Ning Yu and Chu Yu had reached its climax. Chu Yu was the fourth disciple of the five-fingered immortal. In terms of combat power, she was even stronger than Chu Feng. Ning Yu had just started fighting with Chu Yu, but he was already at an absolute disadvantage. If not for the fact that Ning Yu's body was full of Yuan Qi and his body was as strong as an Earth Immortal expert, he would have been killed by Chu Yu. Even so, Ning Yu could not fight Chu Yu head-on. He could only keep slashing out with his sword to restrain Chu Yu. I can't go on like this, Ning Yu thought to himself as he fought with Chu Yu. Chu Yu was strong, and her soul power was not weak either. If the battle continued like this, the one who would lose would definitely be Ning Yu. Fight! Ning Yu's eyes revealed a determined look. He poured all the Yuan Qi in his body into the red demon's sword and slashed out with a backhand slash. Swoosh! Following the sword slash was the black bead. At this point, Ning Yu finally decided to use the black bead. He would first use the sword slash to attract Chu Yu's attention, then use the horrifying Yuan Qi in the black bead. Only by doing so could he kill Chu Yu in one strike. Ning Yu did not want to give Chu Yu a chance to escape. Child's play. Chu Yu's lips curled into a smile as she watched the sword slash coming at her. She waved her sleeve and a strong wind swept out, colliding with the sword slash in front of her. Gotcha! The sword light that Ning Yu slashed out only lasted for a few seconds before shattering. Ha ha ha, kid, you want to contend against me with just your strength? Sharpen your eyes in your next life. A person like me is someone you will never be able to. Seeing the sword light shatter, Chu Yu threw his head back and laughed. However, Chu Yu's laughter was only halfway through when it abruptly stopped, because he saw a black bead coming at him at an unbelievable speed. Moreover, from the black bead, he sensed an energy fluctuation that made his heart palpitate. Not good. At the critical moment, Chu Yu shouted loudly. Then, she hurriedly mobilized the Yuan Qi in her body, trying to block the black pearl. All right. Ning Yu, who was in the distance, clenched his fists tightly when he saw Chu Yu's actions. If Chu Yu chose to escape, he would become a joke if he used the black pearl to deal with Chu Yu. After all, Chu Yu was at the intermediate Earth Immortal stage. Her speed of escaping was not slow at all. However, Chu Yu chose to block the black pearl. In other words, she chose death. This was because the energy contained in the black pearl was the sum of the Yuan Qi in the Five Fingers Cauldron and the remaining medicinal efficacy of the Five Fingers Immortal Pill. With such a huge amount of energy, even an advanced Earth Immortal stage expert would not be able to withstand it 100% of the time, let alone an intermediate Earth Immortal stage expert. Human devil, retreat. Ning Yu did not let Chu Yu's foolish action get to his head. Instead, he immediately informed the human devil to retreat. Ningyu didn't want to do something like sacrificing 800 men to kill 1,000 enemies. All right. In fact, the moment Ningyu threw out the black pearl, the human devil had already planned to retreat. The human devil was not stupid. He knew that the black pearl was the thing on Ningyu that made his heart palpitate. He did not want to bear the terrifying power of the black pearl. Chu Feng, save me! As the black pearl got closer and closer to him, Chu Yu finally realized his foolish action. But it was too late for him to retreat now. He had no choice but to ask Chu Feng for help. Damn it! Chu Feng's pupils shrank. His entire being was filled with anger. Although he and Chu Yu were not blood brothers, they were closer than blood brothers. Chu Yu was in danger of being killed. How could he not be angry? But anger was one thing, but Chu Feng did not lose his mind. He knew that if he took the risk to save Chu Yu now, he would most likely be severely injured. And if he did not save Chu Yu, then Chu Yu would most likely be killed. For a moment, he was faced with a dilemma. To save or not to save? This was the question. Boom. However, just when Chu Feng was considering whether or not to save Chu Yu, Ningyu controlled the black pearl and self-destructed in the air. Crack, crack, crack. The terrifying aftermath of the black pearl's explosion caused the surrounding void to explode. Countless spatial cracks appeared. Chu Yu, who was at the center of the black pearl's explosion, could not even hold on for a second. She spat out a mouthful of blood. Her breath instantly dropped from the intermediate Earth Immortal stage to the early Earth Immortal stage. Moreover, Chu Yu's aura continued to drop. Early Earth Immortal stage, Peak Human Immortal stage, Late Human Immortal stage, Intermediate Human Immortal stage. Not long after, Chu Yu's breath dropped to the Intermediate Human Immortal stage. I will make you pay with your lives. Chu Feng roared and rushed out until the aftermath of the Black Pearl's explosion weakened. But the direction Chu Feng rushed towards was not Ning Yu and the human demon, but Chu Yu. He wanted to save Chu Yu first, then deal with Ning Yu and the human demon. Boom. Unfortunately, Chu Feng had just rushed to Chu Yu's side when the Black Pearl exploded again. The aftermath of the extremely terrifying explosion blasted Chu Feng several feet away on the spot, and he fell heavily on the ground. Let's go together. This was the moment Ning Yu had been waiting for. The energy contained within the Black Pearl was far beyond Chu Feng and Chu Yu's imagination. The first half of the explosion could severely injure Chu Yu. The second half of the explosion could severely injure Chu Feng. Seeing that Chu Feng and Chu Yu were both injured by the Black Pearl's explosion, Ning Yu made a prompt decision to deal with these two troublemakers. Swoosh! Swoosh! He and the human demon rushed towards Chu Yu, one on the left and the other on the right. Damn it! Looking at the approaching Ning Yu, Chu Yu said coldly, "If you dare kill me, my master and my fellow disciples will definitely grind your bones to dust." Swoosh! Hearing Chu Yu's words, Ning Yu's eyes brightened. He instantly stopped in front of Chu Yu. "What, have you thought it through?" Seeing Ning Yu stop, Chu Yu raised an eyebrow and said coldly, "It's not too late for you to surrender now. I will inform my master, the Five Fingers Immortal, and have him personally refine one for you. Hold on, hold on. I haven't thought it through." Chapter 1928. You want to capture me alive? Hearing Ning Yu's indifferent words, Chu Yu's pupils shrank, and his face turned deathly pale. He was very clear. Once he fell into Ning Yu's hands, he would suffer a fate worse than death. You're smart. Ning Yu didn't give Chu Yu too much time to think. He leaped up and arrived beside Chu Yu in a flash. His right hand clenched into a fist and punched Chu Yu's chest. Bang! The huge force that came from his chest caused Chu Yu to fly like a kite with a broken string. His body flew straight out. Whoosh! After his attack succeeded, Ning Yu did not hesitate at all and immediately chased after him. Bang! Bang! Then, several crisp sounds rang out. A few of Chu Yu's ribs were broken by the explosion. Seal her. Ning Yu's powerful soul power was unleashed, completely sealing Chu Yu. At this point, Chu Yu couldn't use any of her energy or soul power. It could be said that Chu Yu's life was in Ning Yu's hands. Not long after Ning Yu restrained Chu Yu, the human demon on the other side sent news of victory. The human demon didn't waste too much time dealing with the weakened Chu Feng. Grabbing Chu Feng's shoulder with his right hand, the human demon landed beside Ning Yu. What should we do with the two of them? The human demon casually threw Chu Feng in front of Ning Yu and frowned. They are the disciples of the five-fingered immortal. I think we shouldn't kill them for now. I think the same. Ning Yu nodded. They can be spared from death, but they can't escape punishment. As he spoke, Ning Yu moved his feet and arrived in front of Chu Feng. He raised his left foot and stomped heavily on Chu Feng's head. Ning Yu coldly said, "Tell me, where are your other three brothers? You want to know where they are? Dream on." Although Ning Yu had stepped on his head, Chu Feng still said fiercely, "If you have the ability, you can kill me. My master and a few other brothers will definitely help me. As you wish." Before Chu Feng could finish his words, Ning Yu exerted force with his left foot and stomped down hard. Gotcha! Although Ning Yu did not use his Yuan Qi in this kick, he used his soul force. Under the pressure of the powerful soul power, Chu Feng's head was directly trampled into mush. Xiao! Immediately after, a cold light suddenly shot out from Chu Feng's body and flew into the distance at an extremely terrifying speed. Primordial Spirit. The cold light that shot out of Chu Feng's body was none other than Chu Feng's primordial spirit. The reason why Ning Yu chose to crush Chu Feng's head was not because he thought it was useless to keep Chu Feng alive, but because he realized that Chu Feng was trying to escape. After all, the strength of Chu Feng's soul force had reached the 3rd grade of the Emperor rank. If he used his soul force to escape, it would be difficult for Ning Yu to control him. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu naturally chose to strike first to gain the upper hand. Where do you think you're going? Since Ning Yu had crushed Chu Feng's head, he was prepared to completely destroy his primordial spirit. Moreover, Chu Feng's primordial spirit was not the only one fleeing. His terrifying soul force and Yuan Qi were also attached to his primordial spirit, wanting to escape together. Devour! Ning Yu's speed was not inferior to Chu Feng's. He quickly caught up to Chu Feng and circulated the spiritual transformation art to the extreme. He began to frantically devour the Yuan Qi and soul force attached to Chu Feng's primordial spirit. Qi. After cultivating the spiritual transformation art to the 10th level, the speed at which Ning Yu devoured Yuan Qi and soul force had clearly increased by several times. It only took Ning Yu a few seconds to completely devour the vigorous Yuan Qi and soul force on Chu Feng's primordial spirit. Phew! After devouring the soul force on Chu Feng's primordial spirit, Ning Yu couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Previously, in order to quickly advance to the intermediate human immortal stage, his foundation was a little unstable. Now that he had devoured Chu Feng, he instantly felt that his cultivation had completely stabilized. In fact, his combat power had been greatly improved. Although he still couldn't kill an intermediate Earth immortal stage warrior, it wasn't too big of a problem to resist a little. I'll leave Chu Feng's primordial spirit to the Red Devil. Ning Yu held the Red Devil sword in his hand and slashed, piercing through Chu Feng's primordial spirit. Moreover, a terrifying suction force shot out from the Red Devil sword, sucking Chu Feng's primordial spirit into the sword. Swoosh! After doing all this, Ning Yu leaped up and arrived in front of Chu Yu. I'll ask you a few questions now. If you can answer me honestly, I can choose to spare your life. If you insist on going about things the wrong way, I can only. Ning Yu shrugged and said to Chu Yu, "There's no need. If you want to kill me, do as you please." Chu Yu seemed to have made up his mind. He said coldly, "Even if you kill me, you won't be able to escape the pursuit of my master, the five-fingered immortal. Seeking death wholeheartedly. Interesting. Ningyu crossed his arms in front of his chest and stared at Chuyu with interest. Even ants were greedy for life, let alone a powerful warrior like Chuyu. Ningyu didn't believe that Chuyu would seek death. In Ningyu's opinion, there must be something fishy about this. I know. Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have discovered something frightening. His expression turned extremely ugly. What's going on? The human demon asked doubtfully when he saw Ningyu's expression. After taking a deep breath, Ningyu said, "If I'm not wrong, this body of Chuyu's is not his main body. In other words, this is Chuyu's clone." Hiss. After hearing Ningyu's explanation, the human demon hurriedly unleashed his perception and looked at Chuyu. The humanoid demon sucked in a breath of cold air when he saw what it was. No wonder Chuyu was so fearless. It turned out that this body of his wasn't his main body, but a clone. Could it be that Chu Feng's is also a clone? The human demon asked. Shaking his head, Ningyu said, "Chu Feng's isn't a clone, but his main body. You can actually see that it's a clone." The conversation between Ningyu and the human demon fell into Chuyu's ears. He revealed a terrified expression, his face full of incredulity. One had to know that even in the Chu family of the higher planes, there were no more than 5 people who knew that he had a clone. Even Chu Feng didn't know that this was a clone of himself. Now that Ningyu had seen through his clone, how could he not be surprised? However, although he was shocked, Chuyu was still very calm. The corners of his lips curled up and he said sinisterly, "To tell you the truth, my main body has also descended to the celestial spirit realm. You killing one of my clones won't affect me at all." "It won't affect you at all?" Ningyu raised his brows and said indifferently, "Although the myriad transformations art is heaven-defying, it's not without its flaws." Chuyu's pupils constricted and his face turned deathly pale. Chapter 1929. It's not too late for you to regret it now. Answer a few of my questions honestly and I can guarantee to spare your wretched life. Ningyu crossed his arms and looked at Chuyu as he spoke indifferently. Actually, Ningyu already knew about the myriad embodiment technique and had even cultivated it before. The myriad embodiment technique that Ningyu had grasped was obtained from a genius of the pill puppet race. However, he had not cultivated it recently. Although Chuyu had hidden it rather well, Ningyu had discovered that he had cultivated the myriad embodiment technique before. Furthermore, he had already successfully cultivated the first half of it, allowing him to have thousands of clones. The myriad embodiment technique had a total of 3 parts. The pill puppet race genius that Ningyu had encountered previously had only grasped the first half. If Xiao Chen's guess was right, Chuyu should have the cultivation method for the middle half. Hence, before obtaining the middle half of the myriad embodiment technique, Ningyu could not possibly kill Chuyu. After all, the myriad embodiment technique was very likely to be a martial technique that surpassed the sage tier. Chuyu's expression turned gloomy when he heard Ningyu's words. He clenched his fists tightly as if he was having an intense internal struggle. Honestly speaking, if Ningyu did not know about the myriad embodiment technique, he would definitely not be as conflicted as he was now. This was because to him, who had cultivated the boundless embodiment transformation technique and had cultivated it to the middle section, losing a clone was not a big deal. However, since Ningyu knew about the myriad embodiment technique, it was very likely that he had a way to deal with his main body. Losing a clone was nothing, but if the main body was injured, the impact on him would be irreversible. While Chuyu was thinking, Ningyu did not disturb him. Instead, he went to the human demon's side and took out Chu Feng's primordial spirit from the red demon sword. Originally, Ningyu had intended to let the human demon devour Chu Feng's primordial spirit. After all, the human demon was very experienced in devouring primordial spirits, and had already devoured the primordial spirits of several experts. If there were no surprises, if the human demon devoured Chu Feng's primordial spirit, there was a high chance that he would become a true human immortal. However, the human demon had just experienced a huge battle, so he was not in his peak condition. If an expert were to invade at this time, wouldn't they suffer a calamity? Therefore, handing over Chu Feng's primordial spirit to the human demon was the best choice. Be careful of Chu Yu. Remember not to fall into his trap. The human demon didn't argue with Ningyu. He took the spirit and swallowed it. Then, he warned, also, you better find a place to undergo your tribulation. You can't suppress it for too long. Otherwise, if a large amount of it accumulates, no matter how strong your body is, you won't be able to resist it. I got it. You should rest and recuperate first. I know what to do. Ningyu waved his hand, signaling the human demon not to worry. He knew the condition of his body better than anyone else. The moment he left the five-finger pill furnace, the lightning tribulation in the void immediately found him. Fortunately, he had used his soul strength and Yuan Qi to deceive the heavens. Otherwise, the tribulation clouds would have descended long ago. Anyway, be careful. If anything happens, inform me immediately. The human devil exhorted again before leaping into the five-fingered cauldron. Ask away. As long as it's not something I can't say, I will definitely tell you. As soon as the human demon entered the five-finger pill furnace, Chu Yu took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "If it involves secrets, even I can't do anything. Why did you come to the immortal spirit realm with such great fanfare?" Ningyu shrugged, not beating around the bush and asking directly. Actually, Ningyu knew what Chu Yu meant. After all, some large sects and families were very strict when it came to secret. Many chose to leave a seal in their disciples' sea of consciousness. If anyone dared to pry into the secrets, the large sects would even detonate the seal. In other words, Chu Yu knew the secrets, but he couldn't say it. Because if he did, the seal in his head would be activated and he would disappear. Naturally, it's for the source energy. Chu Yu answered honestly, the plane barrier of the immortal spirit realm has already loosened greatly. I believe that after a period of time, the plane barrier will completely collapse. At that time, as long as one's cultivation is below the sky immortal level, they will be able to pass through without fear. Swoosh. Hearing this, Ningyu's face darkened. The strongest cultivator in the immortal spirit realm was only at the sage realm. Even if the plane barrier loosened and many people could break through to the immortal realm, they were still very weak compared to the experts of the higher planes. Not to mention the sky immortal, even an earth immortal would be able to dominate the entire immortal spirit realm. As the saying went, how could one allow others to sleep soundly beside one's bed? The experts that descended from the higher planes didn't care about anything. To them, as long as there was a fortuitous encounter, they would fight for it with everything they had. At that time, the immortal spirit realm would be in danger of being wiped out. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu tried his best to calm himself down. It was still too early to think about such things. The most important thing now was to solve the problem in front of him. The Five Fingers Immortal and his disciples. Ningyu looked at Chu Yu and asked again, "Where are your master, the Five Fingers Immortal, and your other three disciples?" "The Myriad Demon Ridge," Chu Yu replied. "How are their cultivation levels?" Ningyu continued. "My master, the Five Fingers Immortal, is a heaven immortal expert. In order to obtain the source energy, he sealed his own cultivation and reached the immortal spirit stage a long time ago." Chu Yu was like a very obedient person as she answered Ningyu's questions honestly. Third senior brother, Guiyong, is a late Earth immortal, and his soul force is around grade 4 Emperor level. Second senior brother, Lu Jiqing, is a peak Earth immortal, and his soul force is around grade 6 Emperor level. Eldest senior brother, Chun Xian, is a perfected earthly immortal, or in other words, a half-step heaven immortal. Rumor has it that the strength of his soul has reached the peak of the monarch rank, and he's only a step away from the true saint rank. After hearing Chu Yu's answer, Ning Yu's heart sank to the bottom. Although he knew from Mo Qianye that the Five Fingers Immortal's disciples were abnormal, he didn't expect them to be this abnormal. With his current overall strength, he could fight against a mid-stage Earth Immortal, but if he met a late-stage Earth Immortal, he would be dead. He had taken the Five Fingers Immortal's elixir and cauldron. Under such circumstances, if they met again, it would only be a fight to the death. With a gloomy expression, Ningyu looked at Chu Yu and said in a deep voice, "Do you know about the Transformation Sect? I heard that a divine son of the Transformation Sect has also come to the immortal spirit realm." The Transformation Sect's divine son. Chu Yu's expression changed drastically. She was shocked to the extreme. Chu Yu's reaction was clearly out of Ning Yu's expectation. According to his understanding, the God Transformation Sect could only be regarded as a small sect in a high-level world. Even the sect master of the sect was only at the late Earth Immortal stage. Chapter 1930. I didn't expect the divine son of the Transformation God sect to appear, and he's even at the celestial spirit state. Chu Yu's expression was gloomy, as if she was thinking about how to spread this shocking news. The Transformation God sect might be a second-rate or even third-rate sect in a high-level plane, but the divine son of the Transformation God sect wasn't simple. There were rumors that the divine son of the Transformation God sect was the reincarnation of a heaven immortal, and there were also rumors that he was the reincarnation of an even more powerful expert. Of course, many people despised this rumor. They all thought that the God Transformation Sect was the one who spread the rumor and wanted to make themselves look good. However, Chu Yu knew very well that the divine son of the Transformation God sect really existed. And the most crucial point was that the divine son wasn't the reincarnation of an early-stage heaven immortal, but a mid-stage heaven immortal patriarch. An early-stage heaven immortal could already dominate a territory, let alone a mid-stage heaven immortal. Although the divine son of the God Transformation Sect was only a middle-stage fairy immortal, his combat strength was still terrifying. I advise you not to provoke the Transformation God sect. Chu Yu returned to normal after a while and warned, "The divine son of the Transformation God sect is extremely terrifying. In the celestial spirit state, even my master, the five-fingered immortal, wouldn't dare to say that he wouldn't lose." That terrifying? Ningyu was surprised. He thought that the divine son of the Transformation God sect couldn't be that powerful. At best, he was just an Earth Immortal Realm martial artist. Now that Chu Yu said this, he had to take it seriously. The five-fingered immortal was enough to give him a headache. Now, there was another divine son of the Transformation God sect who was no weaker than the five-fingered immortal. Could he still reach the myriad demon's ridge safely? Thinking of this, Ningyu rolled his eyes and looked at Chu Yu. Chu Yu immediately hugged herself and felt goosebumps when she was stared at by Ningyu. Hand over the middle section of the great art of freedom transformation. Ningyu stretched out his right hand and said indifferently, "Don't try to play tricks with me. Since I know the great art of freedom transformation, I definitely know that what you gave me is not real. I don't have the middle part of the 10,000 freedom transformations." Chu Yu's eyes flickered, but in the end, he still gritted his teeth and said, "I only successfully cultivated the first half of the infinite freedom transformation technique. Otherwise, I would definitely abandon this clone." Not talking? Ningyu raised his eyebrows and said, "Very well, I have a way to deal with people like you." Ning rode. Then, Ningyu contacted Ning Lu, who was in the five-finger pill furnace. Ning Lu was the manifestation of the World Tree, so it couldn't be better for him to devour Chu Yu. Even though the Chu Yu in front of him was only a clone, His cultivation was a genuine intermediate earthly immortal. Ningyu knew his own strength very well. It wasn't that he couldn't devour Chuyu, he just couldn't devour Chuyu's memories together. Obtaining the middle part of the myriad free transformations technique from Chuyu was the most important thing right now. The reason for that was because their enemies were not only the five-fingered immortal, but they were also the mysterious and unfathomable God transformation sex godchild. Whoosh! After receiving Ning Yu's order, Ning Lu instantly swept out of the five-finger pill furnace. Slap! Ning Lu didn't stand on ceremony with Chuyu. He landed in front of Chuyu, stretched out his right hand and slapped Chuyu's head. Ah! Along with Chuyu's scream, a dark golden branch drilled out of Ning Lu's palm. Obviously, this dark golden branch was Ning Lu's natal branch. In order to devour Chuyu as soon as possible, Ning Lu used his trump card right from the start. Pfft! Under Ning Lu's terrifying devouring speed, Chuyu immediately spat out a mouthful of dark red blood. Her entire face turned from blood red to pale white. Found it! After devouring for a few seconds, Ning Lu found the middle part of the myriad free transformations technique in Chuyu's memory. Ning Lu didn't hesitate. He devoured Chuyu's memory while passing the middle part of the myriad free transformations technique to Ningyu. 10 seconds later, all the information about the myriad free transformations technique in Chuyu's memory was completely devoured by Ning Lu. What? There's more in the five-fingered cauldron. Oh no. After devouring the memory about the myriad free transformations technique, Ning Lu continued to devour, wanting to understand other things. However, just as Ning Lu was about to continue devouring, his expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly retreated. Rumble! When Ning Lu retreated to Ning Yu's side, Chuyu's doppelganger suddenly exploded. The terrifying shockwave sent Ning Yu and Ning Lu flying dozens of feet away. They crashed heavily into a towering tree. Crack! The huge tree, which was as thick as a person's waist, was broken on the spot. Pfft! Pfft! Ning Yu and Ning Lu both spat out a mouthful of blood. What's going on? After the explosion, Ning Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and asked in a low voice, "What else is in the five-fingered cauldron?" Ning Lu did not immediately answer Ning Yu's question. Instead, he tried hard to recall, then wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said, "I didn't find out the specifics. I only saw in Chuyu's blurry memory that there was something else in the five-fingered cauldron. It should be related to the five-fingered immortal." Related to the five-fingered immortal. Related to the five-fingered immortal. Ning Yu's expression was solemn. In fact, he always felt that it was a bit unrealistic to seize control of the five-fingered immortal cauldron so easily. After all, the five-fingered immortal was a sky immortal, and he was also a saint-level alchemist. It was impossible for someone of this level to do anything without planning. Do I have to abandon the five-fingered immortal cauldron? Seeing that Ning Yu was deep in thought, Ning Lu said, "The five-fingered immortal cauldron is an alchemy cauldron on the immortal ranking list. It is a saint-level Dharma treasure. It would be a pity to abandon it." "I definitely can't abandon it." Ning Yu shook his head, indicating that he could not abandon the five-fingered immortal cauldron. Right now, the only saint-level Dharma treasure he had was the Red Demon Sword. However, the Red Demon Sword and the five-fingered immortal cauldron were countless times weaker. It could be said that if the Red Demon Sword clashed head-on with the five-fingered immortal cauldron, the Red Demon Sword would definitely lose. Yuzuan Pagoda! Suddenly, Ningyu seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly took out the Yuzuan Pagoda. Although Ningyu had not paid much attention to the Yuzuan Pagoda, it was undeniably the most mysterious Dharma treasure he had. Before the battle in the Moling Mountains, the Yuzuan Pagoda did not belong to him, but to the mysterious expert inside. When the mysterious expert left, he gave him 3 drops of true dragon blood and told him to take good care of the golden-haired girl. He even said that the golden-haired girl had a terrifying background. In other words, the Yuzuan pagoda was very likely the mysterious expert's Dharma treasure. Even though Ning Yu had advanced to the mid-stage human immortal stage, he could not determine the mysterious expert's true cultivation. Throw the five-fingered immortal cauldron into the Yuzuan pagoda. Chapter 1931. Whoosh. The moment Ning Yu's voice fell, the human demon and the rest rushed out of the cauldron in a flash. After emerging from the cauldron, the human devil looked at Ning Yu and asked, "What happened?" While he was inside the cauldron, the human demon had already devoured Chu Feng's primordial spirit. After devouring Chu Feng's primordial spirit, the human demon had not only recovered to his peak state, but his combat prowess had also increased qualitatively. Previously, the human demon could only fight against mid-earth immortal experts. But now, the human demon's aura had faintly reached the late-earth immortal stage. In other words, with the human demon's current strength, he wouldn't even need to fear late-earth immortal experts. The five-fingered immortal might have left something behind in the cauldron. Ning Yu's expression was solemn as he explained, "Although I'm in control of the cauldron, I have a feeling that everything was under the five-fingered immortal's control." Left something behind? The human demon's expression turned solemn after hearing Ning Yu's explanation. The five-fingered immortal was a celestial immortal, and any celestial immortal had unfathomable strength. Moreover, the human demon was also a celestial immortal back in the higher planes, so he was very familiar with the methods of a celestial immortal. "What do you plan to do?" the human demon asked. "Why don't I destroy the cauldron?" The human demon was a ruthless person. The cauldron on the immortal ranking was a treasure that every pill master dreamed of owning. But when it came to human devil, he destroyed it without any hesitation. "I plan to throw the cauldron into the Tower of Yuzu." Ning Yu flicked his wrist and took out the Tower of Yuzu. "Are you sure you want to put the cauldron in the Tower of Yuzu?" The human demon frowned as he looked at the Tower of Yuzu in Ning Yu's hand. To be honest, he had seriously studied the Tower of Yuzu some time ago. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't determine the true level of the Tower of Yuzu. It had to be said that placing the five-finger pill cauldron into the Tower of the Ascension of Yu without knowing which was higher was an extremely risky move. "This is the only thing I can do." Ning Yu sighed and opened the Yuezuan pagoda, wanting to throw the five-finger cauldron inside. Wait. However, before Ning Yu could throw the cauldron into the Ascension pagoda, he heard a low voice. Ning Yu was slightly stunned when he heard this, and then his mouth opened wide in surprise. "Little Qilin?" Whoosh! Without a doubt, the one who spoke was none other than the little Qilin that had entered the Tower of Yu a long time ago. The little Qilin's figure flickered and appeared from the Tower of Yuzuan. Looking at the five-fingered pill furnace in Ning Yu's hand, the little Qilin said in a deep voice, "I know what's inside the five-fingered pill furnace." "Do you know what's inside the five-finger cauldron?" Ning Yu's expression changed slightly as he asked in confusion. It was no wonder Ning Yu had such an expression. The little Qilin had been in the Tower of Yuzu all this time and hadn't come out ever since it obtained the cauldron. In other words, it hadn't even seen the cauldron before. How could it know what was in it? However, Ning Yu knew that the little Qilin wasn't one to speak without thinking. He looked at it, waiting to hear its explanation. The little Qilin didn't answer Ning Yu directly. Instead, it looked at Wu Patian and the others. Ning Yu understood and set up a soundproof barrier around them with a wave of his hand. Only him, Ning Lu, the little Qilin, the human demon, the Dark Emperor, and the Red Devil were inside. As for Wu Patian and the others, they didn't have the right to hear these secrets. The little Qilin's gaze swept across the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu before it said, "There's another pill in the cauldron. If I'm not wrong, it should be at the pinnacle of the sage tier." Gasp! Everyone inside the soundproof barrier gasped when they heard the little Qilin's explanation. Ning Yu's mouth was slightly agape, his face full of shock. He had devoured the 5-finger immortal pill before and knew how terrifying a sage tier pill was. However, the pill he devoured was probably only at the pinnacle of the monarch tier to the first grade of the sage tier. Now that the little Qilin said that there was another pill in the cauldron, it was very likely to be at the pinnacle of the sage tier. How could Ning Yu not be surprised? A sage tier pill was enough to make human immortals and even earth immortals go crazy, let alone a pinnacle of the sage tier pill. If a pinnacle of the sage tier pill really appeared, even heaven immortals would be alarmed. I actually don't know about this. Someone told me. The shock of Ning Yu and the others was clearly within the little Qilin's expectations. It took the cauldron from Ning Yu and said, "You should be familiar with the person who told me that there's a pinnacle of the sage tier pill in the cauldron." "I'm familiar with him?" Ning Yu frowned slightly, already having a rough idea of what was going on. Swoosh. As expected, Ning Yu's guess was right. In the next moment, a figure flew out of the Tower of Ascension and landed on the little Qilin's back. A golden-haired girl. The figure was none other than the golden-haired girl that the mysterious expert had asked Ning Yu to ensure his safety before he left. The golden-haired girl seemed to be under some kind of control. Sitting on the little Qilin's back, she grabbed the cauldron with her right hand. Then, the golden-haired girl did something that left everyone dumbfounded. The golden-haired girl stared at the cauldron for 3 seconds, then opened her mouth and swallowed it. Crunch! The golden-haired girl chewed, and the cauldron made a crisp, crunching sound in her mouth. Gulp! The sudden change was clearly out of everyone's expectations. Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva and stared at the golden-haired girl. Among them, the little Qilin was the most nervous. It was highly focused. If the golden-haired girl made the slightest mistake, it would immediately come to her rescue. Burp! However, Ning Yu and the others' worries were clearly unnecessary. About 3 minutes later, the golden-haired little girl swallowed the entire 5-fingered pill furnace and burped. This, Ning Yu and the human demon exchanged a glance and saw disbelief and confusion in each other's eyes. At this moment, a doubt rose in their hearts at the same time. What exactly is the golden-haired girl's identity? One should know that the cauldron was a cauldron on the immortal ranking of pill cauldrons. It was at least a saint-grade cauldron. However, such a saint-grade cauldron was easily swallowed by the golden-haired girl. There were many races in the world that possessed powerful devouring abilities, such as the sky-devouring dog, the sky-devouring python, the sky-devouring sparrow. However, Ning Yu and the others had never heard of any human race with such a terrifying devouring ability. Swish! Just as Ning Yu and the others were puzzled, the golden-haired girl suddenly opened her mouth and spat out a cold golden light. Chapter 1932. What the F***ck? Ning Yu couldn't help but curse when he saw the golden glow hovering in front of him. The reason why Ning Yu would swear was because the golden cold light was none other than a medicinal pill, a golden medicinal pill. Ning Yu could sense a terrifying energy fluctuation coming from the golden pill. It was obvious that the golden pill was of a much higher grade than the 5-finger divine pill. "Thank you for taking care of me all this time. Take this 5-finger divine pill as your reward." The golden-haired girl lifted her right hand and pointed at the golden pill in front of Ning Yu. "I've erased the spiritual imprint that the 5-finger immortal left in the 5-finger divine pill. You can devour it without worry." As soon as she said the word devour, the golden-haired girl stomped on the ground and dashed into the distance at a terrifying speed. Ning Yu hadn't expected the golden-haired girl to leave so suddenly. Ning Yu remembered clearly that before the mysterious powerhouse had left, he had repeatedly reminded him to ensure the golden-haired girl's safety. Now that the golden-haired girl had left, what should he do if the mysterious powerhouse came looking for him? "You can't leave." At this thought, Ning Yu couldn't care less anymore. He shouted, "What will happen to me if you leave? If He Kuan comes looking for you, tell him that I, Su Ying, left on my own accord." The golden-haired girl replied without turning her head. Su-ing? Ningyu was slightly stunned. He was clearly confused. He seemed to remember that the golden-haired girl wasn't called Su-ing. Ningyu, I have to leave too. Just as Ningyu was feeling confused, the little Kylan's voice rang in his ears. You have to leave too? Ningyu regained his composure instantly. He looked at the little Kylan and said, I can tell that Su-ing is very powerful. I can rest assured if she leaves alone, but you, Ningyu did not continue, but Ningyu believed that little Kylan would understand. After all, little Qilan's current cultivation was not even at the human immortal realm. Before the plane barrier had loosened, the little Kylan's cultivation might have been able to do as it pleased in the immortal spirit realm. However, the plane barrier had already been greatly weakened. Sages could be said to be everywhere in the immortal spirit realm, and human immortals were as numerous as dogs. With the cultivation of the little Qilan saint, it would probably be difficult for it to move an inch. If it were me, I wouldn't be so stupid as to leave, but I'm not alone. The little Kylan smiled at Ningyu before leaping up and flying off into the distance. Su-ing is waiting for me over there. Buzz. As the little Kylan's figure flickered, a buzzing sound was suddenly emitted from the distant space. Then, Ningyu saw Void Abundance reveal a shadow. I hope everyone will be safe and sound the next time we meet. Ningyu stared in the direction little Qilan and Void Abundance had disappeared in and murmured. If I'm not wrong, this pill should be a pinnacle sage-grade pill. Although Ning Lu was shocked by Su-ing and little Qilan's departure, what really shocked him was the golden pill floating in front of Ningyu. Since Ningyu could tell the grade of the pill, he could naturally tell as well. It is indeed a pinnacle sage-grade pill. Before Ningyu could reply, the human demon nodded and said, the five-finger sage pill can give early-stage sky immortals a high chance of breaking through to the mid-stage sky immortal realm. This pill must have been prepared by the Five Fingers Immortal to break through to the mid-stage sky immortal realm. From the Five Fingers Saint pill, the human demon felt a pure and terrifying energy ripple. At this moment, the human demon couldn't help but suspect Su Ying's identity. Even though he was a sky immortal in a high-level plane, he couldn't determine Su Ying's true identity. She had directly swallowed the Five Fingers Sage Pill Cauldron and erased the Five Fingers Immortal's soul imprint in the Five Finger Sage Pill. This wasn't something that just anyone could pull off. In fact, a place had already appeared in the human demon's mind. The Central Godly Dynasty. High-level planes had many territories, some of which were so remote that they only had one sky immortal. The Central Godly Dynasty, however, was different. It ruled over thousands of territories and had as many sky immortals as dogs. There were even many experts who had surpassed the sky immortal realm. Taking a deep breath, the human demon temporarily suppressed his doubts. He looked at the Five-Finger Sage Pill and said, Ningyu, with your mid-stage sky immortal cultivation, if you devour the Five-Finger Sage Pill, you will definitely break through to the Earth immortal realm. It's that terrifying? Ningyu exclaimed. He knew that he had a high chance of breaking through to the Earth immortal realm after devouring the Five-Finger Sage Pill, but he hadn't expected it to be 100% sure. It's more than terrifying. A Five-Finger Sage Pill can give early-stage sky immortals a high chance of breaking through to the mid-stage sky immortal realm. What do you think? I can't devour the Five-Finger Sage Pill now. Ningyu's face darkened, then he shook his head. I've just reached the mid-stage sky immortal realm. I'm still suppressing the heaven immortal tribulation. If I rush into the earth immortal realm, I might not be able to withstand 2 heaven tribulations in a row. You're right. The human demon nodded. The heaven immortal tribulation might not be that difficult for Ningyu now. After all, Ningyu's soul force and body were far stronger than an early-stage sky immortal realm martial artist. How about this? I'll split the Five-Finger Sage Pill into 6 portions. Ningyu thought about it, One for me, one for you, one for Ning Lu and Hong Mo, one for the Dark Emperor. As for the sixth portion, Ning Yu frowned. Even though Lu Ni's cultivation speed was fast, she was still only a heavenly supreme. There was still a long way to go before she could reach the Saint Realm. Even if he gave the sixth portion to Lu Wei wouldn't be able to devour it. On the path of cultivation, more haste, less speed. Ning Yu didn't want to spoil Lu Wei. After thinking about it, Ning Yu said solemnly, "I've decided to give the sixth portion to Zhao Hang." Actually, giving the sixth portion to Zhao Hang was something that Ning Yu had thought about deeply. If not for Zhao Hang's help at Wu Heng Cave, Ning Yu definitely wouldn't have been able to leave. Ning Yu was a vengeful person. He had promised to help Zhao Hang find the source energy, but so much time had passed, and he still hadn't fulfilled his promise. Thus, he wanted to give the sixth portion to Zhao Hang as a form of repayment. As for Yi Jiansong, Meng Chang'an and the others, Ning Yu wanted to help them charge for human immortal realm. Xiao. Ning Yu flicked his wrist, and in an instant, a cold light swept out from his sleeve, splitting the five-finger Saint Pill in front of him into 6 parts. Swish, 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 swish. Of the 6 five-finger holy elixirs, 1 was given to the human devil, 1 to Ning Lu, 1 to the red devil, and 1 to the dark emperor. Chapter 1933. Outside the soundproof barrier, Zhao Hang, Wu Patian, and the others stared at the five-finger sacred pill. Although Ning Yu had used the soundproof barrier to isolate their conversation, the power of the five-finger sacred pill could not be hidden from Zhao Hang and the rest. Actually, Zhao Hang and the rest had the same thought. Their relationship with Ning Yu was not particularly close. Even if Ning Yu divided the five-finger sacred pill into a few portions, there was no way they would get one. Wu Patian and the rest were fine. After all, their cultivation was at the peak of the sage realm. Even without the five-finger sacred pill, they could still break through to the human immortal realm. However, Zhao Hang was different. Zhao Hang was only at the intermediate sage realm. Although his combat power was terrifying enough to fight against a peak sage realm martial artist, what he needed now was not to break through to the human immortal realm, but the origin energy. In other words, something that could replace the origin energy. Although the five-finger sacred pill in Ning Yu's hand was not the origin energy, it had reached the peak of the sage realm. In a sense, it could already replace the origin energy. If only Ning Yu could give me the last portion of the five-finger sacred pill. Zhao Heng looked at Ning Yu in the soundproof barrier and couldn't help but shake his head. How precious was the five-finger sacred pill? Ask yourself honestly, if he obtained the five-finger saint pill, would he give a portion to Ning Yu? I hope that Ning Yu will keep his promise and give me some of the origin energy during this trip to the Thousand Demon Ridge. Zhao Heng looked a little lonely. When he first met Ning Yu, he was trying his best to help Ning Yu. Who would have thought that in a short 2 months, Ning Yu would break through to the intermediate human immortal realm and leave him in the dust. I wonder how much longer my sister can last. Zhao Heng stood on the spot and sighed softly as he gazed into the distance. Actually, there was something that Zhao Heng did not tell Ning Yu. The reason why he wanted the source energy was to save his sister. A few days ago, he had secretly used a secret method to contact his sister and learned that his sister should be able to hold on for about half a month. Half a month's time wasn't short, but it wasn't long either. Because he couldn't be sure that he could obtain source energy within half a month, Zhao Heng told the people taking care of his little sister to bring her to the Myriad Demon Ridge. Which was also to say that Zhao Heng decided to fight to the death inside the Myriad Devil Ridge. Xiao. However, just as Zhao Heng was thinking about this, a cold light suddenly flew out from the soundproof barrier and flew toward him at an extremely frightening speed. Ning Yu's voice was heard along with the cold light. I'll leave this sacred pill for you. I hope you won't disappoint me and break through to the human immortal stage. Hua. Ning Yu's voice caused Zhao Heng's expression to instantly change. His eyes widened in disbelief. Ningyu had given him the last portion of the five-fingered sacred pill? Even though he had imagined this happening before, he was still dumbfounded when it actually happened. It felt like a dream to him. That was the five-fingered sacred pill. What, you don't want it? Ningyu activated the soundproof barrier and slowly approached Zhao Hang. He grabbed the five-fingered sacred pill floating in front of Zhao Hang and said, "If you don't want it, I can give it to someone else." "No, no, no." Zhao Hang reacted instantly and blurted out, "I want it, I really need the five-fingered sacred pill." Ningyu smiled when he saw Zhao Hang's reaction and said, "I'm not giving you the sixth portion of the five-fingered sacred pill for you to thank me. I want you to break through to the human immortal realm so that you can help me in the upcoming trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge." This, Zhao Hang bit his lips and wore a hesitant expression. Ningyu frowned slightly and asked, "Is there a problem?" Taking a deep breath, Zhao Hang explained, "I want to keep the five-fingered sacred pill and not consume it for now." Ningyu was stunned. He clearly did not expect Zhao Hang to make such a decision. After all, anyone who saw the five-fingered sacred pill would find it hard to remain calm. Ning Lu, the Dark Emperor, and the rest had already swallowed the five-fingered sacred pill into their stomachs and were currently sitting cross-legged on the ground to refine it. Even the Red Fiend and Human Fiend were busy. Among them, Human Fiend was using the medicinal power of the five-fingered sacred pill to heal the wounds left in his body from his battle with a heaven immortal. He was trying to unleash the battle power of a peak earth immortal. As for the Red Fiend, he took the five-fingered sacred pill and entered the Red Fiend's sword. He was the sword spirit of the Red Fiend's sword. Swallowing the five-fingered sacred pill inside the Red Fiend's sword could ensure that it would not be wasted. Even if there was overflowing medicinal power, the Red Fiend's sword could devour it. Now that Zhao Hang said that he would not consume the five-fingered sacred pill for now, how could Ningyu not be shocked? However, even though he was shocked, Ningyu did not ask any further. After all, he had already handed the five-fingered sacred pill to Zhao Hang. How he handled it was Zhao Hang's business. City Lord Yi, Chairman Meng. Ningyu did not look at Zhao Hang but turned to Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. He said, "Your cultivation is at the peak of the Sage Realm. Now that the plane barrier has loosened, you should be able to charge for human immortal now, right?" Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an did not hide anything and nodded. "To be honest, the two of us have already accumulated enough. We just do not have the confidence to withstand the human immortal tribulation." The human immortal tribulation is indeed terrifying. Since ancient times, many geniuses have been killed by the human immortal tribulation. Ningyu nodded in agreement. The loosening of the plane barrier caused the cultivation of many immortal spirit state natives to skyrocket. Many even chose to charge for human immortal directly. However, Ningyu knew that if he was not strong enough, he would only die if he tried to charge for human immortal tribulation. The two of you are slightly stronger than Chairman Meng and the rest. You should be able to withstand the human immortal tribulation. Ningyu looked at Wu Patian and Divine War Crane and asked, "We are indeed able to withstand the human immortal tribulation. However, the immortal spirit state is undergoing a drastic change. Even if we reach the early human immortal stage, it will not help." Wu Patian and Divine War Crane were more far-sighted. Recently, all the enemies they faced were earthly immortal expert. Even if they reached the intermediate or advanced human immortal stage, it would not be of much help, let alone the early human immortal stage. "What do you think?" Ningyu asked. "We want to return to our respective regions to retrieve some things." Wu Patian and Divine War Crane looked at each other and said in unison. Both of them were leaders of their respective regions. They had many trump cards that they did not bring with them. Therefore, they wanted to make a trip back before the source energy in the Thousand Demons Ridge exploded completely. They wanted to prepare some life-saving measures. Everyone has their own ambitions. Chapter 1934. Ningyu naturally wouldn't treat Wu Patian and the Divine Crane the same way he treated Zhao Hang. After all, Zhao Hang had actively helped him in the Wu Hung cave, while Wu Patian and the Divine Crane had helped him passively. At the plaza of the Pill Emperor City, Wu Patian and the Battle God Crane had helped him and stood on the same side as him. It was only after they had defeated Gong Yangqing. Therefore, Ningyu choosing to give them a promise was already extremely benevolent. "We'll meet again." Wu Patian and the Divine Crane took the crystal ball from Ningyu and leaped into the void. After Wu Patian and the Divine Crane left, Ningyu's gaze shifted to Elder Tianji and Yunmu. Elder Tianji and Yunmu's group were probably the weakest at the scene. According to Ningyu's thoughts, it was best not to let them follow him on this trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge. With the plane barrier loosening, the Myriad Demon Ridge would definitely be a gathering place for all sorts of monsters. At that time, even a human immortal might not be able to establish a foothold there, let alone Elder Tianji and Yunmu. "We might have to go to the Myriad Demon Ridge later. What do you guys think?" Ningyu looked at Elder Tianji and Yunmu and asked directly. "We won't go to the Myriad Demon Ridge." Elder Tianji knew that Ningyu was worried about their safety, so he said, "We'll be staying in the Alchemy Emperor City for a period of time." Although Elder Tianji really wanted to go to the Myriad Demon Ridge to seek fortuitous encounters, he knew his own limit. His strongest point was his knowledge of divination. However, the plane barrier loosening this time led to the descent of the high-level Heaven's Secrets sex experts. What happened not long ago was still vivid in Elder Tianji's mind, and he would never forget it. If it wasn't for Ningyu's help, he might have been killed by the high-level Heaven's Secrets sex people. And in this trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge, they would definitely encounter the high-level Heaven's Secrets sex experts. Therefore, after careful consideration, Elder Tianji finally decided not to go to the Myriad Demon Ridge. "All right, I respect your decision." With a thought, Ningyu transmitted the divination art he had obtained from perfected Withered Domain and Bai Chang to the divination elder. The sudden influx of information in his mind caused the Elder of Heavenly Secrets to gape in shock. He was a native of the immortal spirit realm, and the divination art he had obtained in the past wasn't the real one, but an incomplete one. Now, the divination art that Ningyu had imparted to him was the genuine divination art, the true divination art. Most importantly, not only had Ningyu taught him the divination art, but he had also given him a divination stone. Although the Heaven Fate Stone in Ningyu's hand could no longer be used to increase his cultivation, it could still be used for fortune-telling. "Words cannot express my gratitude." The Elder of Heavenly Secrets knew that the divination art and Heaven Fate Stone that Ningyu had given him were priceless treasures. He cupped his fists and said to Ningyu, "I will remember this favor." After saying that, the Elder of Heavenly Secrets pulled Yunmu's hand and flew towards the Pill Emperor City. Seeing how highly the Elder of Heavenly Secrets treated Yunmu, Ningyu slightly furrowed his brows. He vaguely felt that something was amiss. He had been paying attention to Yunmu all this time. Truth be told, Ningyu had always been suspicious about Yunmu's identity. According to Yunmu, she was the reincarnation of the 100 Flower Palace's ancestor. However, Ningyu was very suspicious. He felt that Yunmu's identity wasn't simple. However, there was no point in thinking about this now. Ningyu reorganized his thoughts and turned to look at Ziyun. Regarding Ziyun, Ningyu was actually very conflicted. Ziyun's physique was very special, and it could be compared to Lu Wei. If he cultivated with Ziyun, he would be able to achieve twice the results with half the effort. "I'm willing to follow you to the Myriad Demon Ridge." Seeing that Ningyu was looking at her, Ziyun didn't wait for Ningyu to speak before saying, "In the celestial spirit region, I don't even have a single relative. When I'm with you, I feel very warm." Ningyu's face was full of black lines. He didn't think that Ziyun would have this kind of thought. It was indeed out of his expectations. It should be known that Xiun had followed them in the beginning because she was controlled by Ning Lu. Now that Xiun had changed her mind, how could Ning Yu not be surprised? However, being surprised was just being surprised. Ning Yu didn't dwell too much on this matter. He nodded and said, "Since you're willing to follow us, then follow us. However, I have to remind you that you can only stay in the storage ring. Without my permission, you definitely can't come out." Xiun's cultivation was only at the intermediate stage of the Sage Realm. Ningyu didn't want to have to look after her in the Myriad Demon Ridge. Because this trip to the Myriad Demon Ridge was destined to be fraught with grim possibilities. Rumble. At this moment, a rumbling sound suddenly came from the void. "Oh no, all of you go into the storage ring. My lightning tribulation is coming." The sudden change caused Ning Yu's expression to change drastically, and he hurriedly spoke. This rumbling sound wasn't something else, but a sign that Ning Yu's lightning tribulation was about to descend. Ever since Ning Yu had advanced to the intermediate stage of the human immortal stage, he had been trying his best to suppress the lightning tribulation. Who would have thought that the lightning tribulation would suddenly erupt? Whoosh 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 whoosh. Hearing Ning Yu's words, coupled with the rumbling lightning in the void, the human demon and the others all went into the storage ring in a flash. However, what shocked Ning Yu was that there were still two cultivators in front of him. These two cultivators were none other than Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. "What are you staying behind for?" Ning Yu asked in surprise when he saw Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an staying behind. Something like the lightning tribulation could only be transcended by oneself. It was not advisable to ask for help from others. Otherwise, the power of the lightning tribulation would multiply. In other words, if Ning Yu was going to transcend the tribulation, and Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were inside, the power of the tribulation would increase by at least 4 times. "We don't want to stay either." Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were on the verge of tears. It wasn't that they wanted to stay, but they couldn't leave even if they wanted to. The two of them could sense that their tribulation of the human immortal realm was coming too. They would never have believed it if it was in the past. After all, they didn't do anything. Why would the tribulation befall them? If a peak sacred realm cultivator wanted to trigger the tribulation, they would need to devour a huge amount of energy and prepare a lot of things. Now that they had triggered the tribulation for no reason, how could they not be surprised? "Damn it, you guys are hiding behind me!" Ning Yu cursed in his heart when he saw the tribulation clouds above Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. He shielded them behind him and said in a deep voice, "I'll block the lightning tribulation for you." Ning Yu was well aware of that. With Meng Chang'an and Yi Jiansong's strength, it would be more difficult for them to block the tribulation clouds, let alone transcending the tribulation completely. Chapter 1935. Just as Ning Yu was thinking about how to resist the terrifying thunder tribulation above his head, the void not far away from him suddenly trembled, and then 2 martial artists quietly appeared. If Ning Yu was here, he would definitely find that although these 2 martial artists were young, their auras were extremely powerful. Late-stage Earth-level immortal. The cultivation of these 2 martial artists had undoubtedly reached the terrifying late-stage Earth-level immortal. One of the martial artists' cultivation was already at the peak of the late-stage Earth-level immortal, only 1 step away from the real peak of the Earth-level immortal. "Luo Shueha, I heard that your human immortal tribulation is extremely fierce and can kill Earth-level immortals." One of the young men in light blue clothes first looked at Ning Yu, then at the man next to him, and asked, "I wonder how much weaker this person's human immortal tribulation is compared to yours?" "Humph." The young man called Luo Shueha snorted and immediately looked straight at Ning Yu. After staring at Ning Yu for a while, Luo Shueha said coldly, "Xiao Xian, don't be sarcastic. I know that when you were undergoing your human immortal tribulation, you were almost blasted in half by the terrifying tribulation cloud." Haha, human immortal is the real threshold to step into the world of cultivation. The strength of the human immortal tribulation basically determines a person's future achievements. Xiao Xian was obviously not angry with Luo Shuihe's attitude. On the contrary, Xiao Xian smiled and said, "According to my observation, if this martial artist can safely pass through the human immortal tribulation, he can at least become a sky immortal in the future." Whoosh! Hearing Xiao Xian's words, even though Luo Shuihe really wanted to mock him, he could not help but change his expression. The territory they were in was a powerful territory in a high-level plane. Although there was a certain gap between them and the central divine dynasty, it was many times stronger than the territory where the five-fingered immortal was. Mid-stage sky immortals were not rare in the territories they came from. What surprised Luo Shuihe was that Xiao Xian actually said that this martial artist in front of him had a chance to become a sky immortal. One had to know that celestial immortals were experts who could dominate a territory. Even though their territories were filled with celestial immortals, every time an expert from a sect broke through to the celestial immortal realm, they would hold a banquet and invite the experts from the surrounding territories to celebrate. This kind of banquet could even be held for a year. Because becoming a celestial immortal was very difficult. In order to attain the heavenly immortal realm, strength alone wasn't enough. It also required great fortuitous encounters, great willpower, and great methods. Are you so sure that he has the talent to become a heavenly immortal? Luo Shuihe suppressed the shock in his heart and asked with a frown, "Even the top 10 geniuses of the longevity role don't have a chance to become a sky immortal. Only the top 3 longevity role have a chance to become a sky immortal." Xiao Xian rolled his eyes at Luo Shuihe and said, "I think you misunderstood me. I mean, if he can pass this worldly immortal tribulation, he will have a chance to become a sky immortal in the future. If he can't even pass this worldly immortal tribulation, then what's the point of talking about becoming a sky immortal? His worldly immortal tribulation isn't too strong. It's a level weaker than mine." Luo Shuihe still didn't quite believe Xiao Xian's evaluation of Ningyu, because his worldly immortal tribulation back then was at least several times stronger than Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation. Although Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation was powerful and could easily kill a mid-stage mortal deity, it was destined to be on a different level from his worldly immortal tribulation, which could easily kill an earth-level deity. "Look again." Xiao Xian smiled and pointed at Ningyu with his right hand. "Let's look. His worldly immortal tribulation can." Luo Shuihe rolled his eyes and then looked at Ningyu again. Sth. This glance caused Luo Shuihe to suck in a breath of cold air. Luo Shuihe was shocked not because Ningyu's worldly immortal tribulation was powerful, but because he realized that there were tribulation clouds above the heads of the 2 martial artists behind Ningyu. Generally speaking, there shouldn't be anyone else in the tribulation. With every additional person, the power of the tribulation clouds would double. There were 2 more people behind Ningyu and they were going through the tribulation at the same time. The power of the tribulation clouds would at least increase by several times. Of course, since ancient times, some peerless geniuses would take the initiative to invite others into the tribulation clouds when they were going through the tribulation. After all, the stronger the tribulation clouds, the more powerful the baptism would be. Therefore, all peerless geniuses and peerless geniuses would invite others into their tribulation clouds when they were going through the tribulation. Even he had invited an expert to follow him when he was going through the worldly immortal tribulation. However, Ningyu was even more perverted than he was in the past. He had only invited an expert to go through the tribulation with him, but Ningyu had invited 2 people who were going to go through the worldly immortal tribulation at the same time. The more he thought about it, the more terrified Luo Shuihe felt. In the end, Luo Shuihe even took a deep breath and stared at Ningyu. He murmured, If he can successfully overcome the tribulation, I'm afraid his combat strength will be comparable to ours. Rumble. Ningyu had no time to care about Luo Shuei's shock. He protected Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an behind him. The vital qi in his body surged out and formed a vital qi barrier around them. Normally, the first few tribulation clouds of the human immortal tribulation were not particularly powerful. With the vital qi barrier, one could easily resist them. Ningyu's idea was to use the vital qi barrier to resist the first few tribulation clouds. He would take advantage of this time to use the art of crossing the sea to deceive the heavens. Although it was said to deceive the heavens, it was actually to let Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an enter the storage ring. He would use the art of boundless embodiment to create two people. As for the problem of aura, Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an would each force out a drop or several drops of blood essence to temporarily disguise themselves. Crack! As soon as Ningyu activated the vital qi barrier, a waist-thick tribulation cloud came crashing down. The tribulation cloud's speed was very fast. Almost in an instant, it collided with the Yuan qi barrier. A crisp sound was heard. Hearing the sound, Ningyu's face turned extremely gloomy. He originally thought he could use the vital qi barrier to resist a few tribulation clouds. However, his vital qi barrier unexpectedly cracked after being hit by the first tribulation cloud. According to this situation, not to mention withstanding a few tribulation clouds, it was unknown whether he could even withstand 3 tribulation clouds. I can't use the art of boundless embodiment anymore. Ningyu's face was ashen. The soul power in his body surged out and wrapped around his fist. In the next moment, Ningyu's feet suddenly stomped on the ground. His body rose from the ground and charged straight at the second tribulation cloud. Chi. The soul power on his fist surged and rubbed against the air, emitting a hissing sound. Ningyu's goal was very clear. He directly charged into the tribulation cloud and fought with it. Chapter 1936. What is he doing? Seeing Ningyu's actions, Luo Shuei was puzzled. When others went through the great tribulation of the human immortal realm, they would usually endure it silently and let the tribulation clouds strike. But Ningyu seemed to want to fight against the tribulation clouds? He's going to face the thunder tribulation, Xiao Xian said with a solemn expression. Why does he want to face the thunder tribulation? Does he think he's very strong? Luo Shuei was puzzled. No matter how powerful a peerless genius was, he had never heard of anyone who dared to face the thunder tribulation directly. Because there was no advantage in facing the thunder tribulation directly. Even if he didn't face the thunder tribulation directly, the baptism after successfully passing the tribulation wouldn't be weak. Ningyu's actions were completely unrewarding. No wonder Luo Shuei was puzzled. Xiao Xian's thoughts were obviously a little different from Luo Shuei's. Or rather, Xiao Xian had a more thorough and profound view. If they allowed the lightning tribulation to strike them one by one, it would be much easier. However, the 2 peak sages below would suffer a calamity. Obviously, the 2 peak stage sage cultivators couldn't withstand the terrifying thunder tribulation. I'm more and more interested in him now. After guessing Ningyu's true thoughts, Xiao Xian crossed his arms in front of his chest and smiled. If he can pass the great tribulation of the human immortal realm, I've decided to rope him in and give him a Xiao family token. Xiao family token? Hearing Xiao Xian's words, Luo Shuei was finally moved. The Xiao family was a big family in their territory, and there was more than one sky immortal in the family. Rumor had it that only half-step sky immortals or peak-stage royal alchemists had a chance to obtain the Xiao family token. How could Luo Shuei not be shocked when Xiao Xian said that he wanted to give the cultivator in front of him one? However, while he was shocked, Luo Shuei shifted his gaze to the other side and reminded, I have no objections if you want to give him the Xiao clan's command plate. However, you have to think carefully. This brat has offended more than one person. Buzz. On the other side, there was a buzzing sound in the air. There were a total of 4 cultivators in the air. In terms of cultivation level, these 4 cultivators were no weaker than Luo Shuehe and Xiao Xian. Late Earth Immortal Stage. All 4 of them were at the Late Earth Immortal Realm. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man. If Human Demon were here, he would have discovered that these 4 martial artists were the 4 martial artists who had chased after him in Four Corner City. When they were in Four Corner City, the 5-finger elixir furnace sucked them in at the last moment, causing the hook-nosed old man to lose his footing. Unfortunately, there was a mark left behind by a heaven immortal from a high-level plane on Human Fiend's body. After a period of searching, the hook-nosed old man and the others finally found traces of Human Fiend. After finding traces of the Human Demon, the aquiline-nosed old man had wanted to attack the Human Demon immediately. However, Ning Yu's tribulation clouds descended. The hook-nosed old man did not have the guts to rashly barge into someone else's tribulation cloud. Therefore, he decided to wait patiently until Ning Yu's tribulation clouds ended. Then, he would think of a way to deal with the human devil. However, he did not stay idle. Instead, he used a special secret skill to trigger the tribulation of Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an. I think that Ning Yu will definitely be blasted to smithereens by the tribulation clouds. The bald man shrugged as he watched Ning Yu rush into the tribulation clouds. The Human Demon is in Ning Yu's storage ring, so I'm sure he'll be blasted to smithereens as well. We probably won't even need to do anything. In my opinion, we should leave one person here to watch. The rest of us should rush to Thousand Demons Ridge first. I heard that Thousand Demons Ridge is about to be breached. At that time, large amounts of origin energy will be ejected. We can't miss this great opportunity. Hearing the bald man's words, the other 2 Earth Immortal Realm martial artists nodded in agreement. Although their main mission in the Immortal Spirit region this time was to kill Human Demon, coincidentally, the plane barrier was loosening and the origin energy in Thousand Demons Ridge was bursting out. They definitely wanted a share of the loot. After all, origin energy was very precious. If they could obtain some origin energy, they might even have a chance to improve further. It was not impossible for them to have a chance to touch the threshold of Heaven Immortal in the future. How about this, you stay? The hook-nosed old man's face was gloomy. He stared at the bald man and said, "When the time comes, all the credit for killing Human Demon will go to you." The bald man's face was a little ugly. He did not want to stay. Although Ning Yu would definitely fail the tribulation, Human Demon was a heaven immortal in the past. Who knew if he had a trump card to survive? If Human Demon came back to life and he stayed, it was very likely that Human Demon would use a secret technique to kill him. "Shut up if you don't want to stay," the hook-nosed old man said coldly. "The 4 of us will guard the surroundings. As soon as Ning Yu's tribulation clouds end, we will immediately attack." Yes. The bald man and the others were shocked. Among the 4 of them, the hook-nosed old man was the strongest. It was really unwise to contradict the hook-nosed old man. At the same time, in midair, Ning Yu had already rushed into the tribulation clouds. His hands carried a terrifying soul power fluctuation as he repeatedly bombarded the tribulation clouds. At first, Ning Yu could still contend with the tribulation clouds, but as time passed, Ning Yu gradually fell into a disadvantageous position. This was because the tribulation clouds were increasing in number and in the end, it had reached a horrifying level. Damn it! Ning Yu forcefully dispersed a tribulation cloud and couldn't help but curse. At first, the tribulation cloud's power could kill an intermediate human immortal. However, with the passage of time, the power of the ordinary tribulation clouds had already reached the point where they could easily blast a peak human immortal. In other words, Ning Yu was not fighting against the tribulation cloud, but against countless human immortal peak martial artists. Ning Yu still understood the principle of ants biting an elephant to death. A peak human immortal might not be his match, but what about 2? What about 3? What about 10? Facing so many tribulation clouds which were equivalent to the peak of human immortal, even though Ning Yu's strength was comparable to an intermediate earthly immortal expert, he faintly felt a little powerless at this moment. I have to think of a way. Ning Yu looked at the tribulation clouds rushing over, gritted his teeth, and immediately took out the 5-finger divine pill. The 5-finger divine pill was divided into 6 portions by Ning Yu. Ning Lu, Human Demon, Hong Mo, Dark Emperor, Zhao Heng, the 5 of them each had 1 portion. The last portion was kept by Ning Yu for himself. Ning Yu originally wanted to consume the 5-finger divine pill after passing the tribulation, but the current situation did not allow him to think too much. If he did not consume the 5-finger divine pill, he would probably be blasted to pieces by another dozen tribulation clouds. Devour! Ning Yu flicked his wrist and swallowed the 5-finger divine pill. Boom! Chapter 1937. Rumble. Terrifying essence chi burst out of Ning Yu's body and shot up into the sky. Ning Yu was in the middle of the tribulation clouds, so the essence chi burst out of his body and blew away the tribulation clouds around him. Originally, Ning Yu's strength was several times more difficult to deal with the surrounding tribulation clouds than it was to reach the sky. However, after swallowing the pentacle divine pill, Ning Yu's strength was enough to go against the tribulation clouds. Crack! 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 Ning Yu clenched his right hand into a fist and dashed left and right in the tribulation clouds. A series of crisp sounds were heard, indicating that the tribulation clouds around Ning Yu had been blown away. Sage-grade elixir. Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian, who were not far away, were extremely shocked. Although they did not know that the elixir in Ning Yu's hands was called the Pentacle Divine Pill, they were still very sensitive to the terrifying aura that the elixir emitted. After all, the difference between a sage-grade elixir and a royal-grade elixir was so huge that Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian could tell the difference at a glance. How could he have a sage-grade elixir? Luo Shueha stared at Ning Yu and asked in confusion. He could not understand why a mid-stage human celestial like Ning Yu would have a sage-grade elixir. The appearance of a sage-grade elixir was enough to cause peak Earth celestials or even sky celestials to kill each other. To be honest, this was the first time Luo Shueha had seen a mid-stage human celestial who had a sage-grade elixir and swallowed it. Why does this elixir have the aura of the 5-fingered celestial? Xiao Xian and Luo Shueha were focused on different things. Although he had already admitted that Ning Yu was extremely talented, he was still shocked that Ning Yu had a sage-grade elixir. However, in his opinion, the reason why Ning Yu had a sage-grade elixir was most likely related to the 5-fingered celestial, because he sensed a trace of the 5 Fingers Immortal's aura from the saint-rank medicinal pill. Even though there was a great disparity in strength between the 5-fingered Immortal's territory and his own territory, the 5-fingered Immortal was a saint-grade alchemist. Any saint-grade alchemist's status was not inferior to that of an ordinary heavenly immortal. Before coming to the celestial spirit realm, Xiao Xian had done some research on the celestial spirit realm. The 5-fingered immortal was the first person he learned about. How could he not be shocked when he sensed a trace of the 5-fingered immortal's aura from the saint-tier elixir in Ning Yu's hand? Should we make a move? Xiao Xian and Luo Shueha could tell that Ning Yu had taken out a saint-tier medicinal pill, so naturally, the hawk-nosed old man and the bald man could tell as well. Seeing that Ning Yu had used the saint-grade elixir to easily disperse the tribulation clouds, the bald man immediately said, "Let's seize the opportunity while Ning Yu hasn't completely refined the saint-grade elixir yet." Fool! The hawk-nosed old man was so angry that his nose was crooked. Ning Yu was in the midst of the human immortal tribulation. What was the difference between barging in now and courting death? Glaring at the bald man, the hawk-nosed old man said coldly, "From now on, you are not allowed to say a word without my permission. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The bald man opened his mouth slightly and wanted to refute, but when he saw the hawk-nosed old man's cold gaze, he chose to shut his mouth on the spot. The bald man was very self-aware. No matter how he looked at it, the hawk-nosed old man was much stronger than him. Under the threat of the hawk-nosed old man, it was better for him to stay where he was. Rumble! In midair, Ningyu had used the five-fingered divine elixir to disperse several tribulation clouds. Before he could even catch his breath, the void exploded and several more terrifying tribulation clouds appeared above his head. Sensing the terrifying energy contained in these tribulation clouds, even Ningyu, who had swallowed the five-fingered divine elixir, could not help but gasp at this moment. Early Earth Immortal Stage. If the tribulation clouds previously had destructive power equivalent to a peak human immortal stage martial artist, then these tribulation clouds now had destructive power equivalent to an early Earth immortal stage martial artist. Facing tribulation clouds equivalent to a peak human immortal stage martial artist, Ningyu had swallowed the five-fingered divine elixir to deal with them. Now that he was facing tribulation clouds equivalent to an early Earth immortal stage martial artist, Ningyu's face turned extremely ugly. "I have to refine all the five-fingered divine elixir in my body as soon as possible." With a thought, Ningyu hurriedly used the spiritual transformation technique to refine the remaining five-fingered divine elixir in his body. The five-fingered divine elixir was a sage-grade elixir. No matter how fast Ningyu's devouring speed was, it was impossible for him to completely devour it in such a short period of time. In other words, there was still a large amount of the five-fingered divine elixir left in Ningyu's body. Qi. As the spiritual transformation technique was used, the five-fingered divine elixir in Ningyu's body was being refined at a terrifying speed. Boom! Just as Ningyu started to refine the remaining five-fingered divine elixir in his body, a tribulation cloud as thick as a person's waist suddenly came crashing down from midair. Feeling helpless, Ningyu could only speed up the process of refining the five-fingered divine elixir while wielding the red demon sword to fight against the tribulation cloud. Kacha! 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 Ningyu's current overall strength was equivalent to an intermediate Earth immortal stage martial artist. Even without the enhancement of the five-fingered divine elixir, he could still easily defeat an early Earth immortal stage martial artist. The tribulation clouds around Ningyu were mostly around the early Earth immortal stage. Naturally, they would not be able to hurt Ningyu in a short period of time. Not only were the tribulation clouds unable to hurt Ningyu, but Ningyu used the red demon sword to slash apart several tribulation clouds. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. From the moment the second tribulation cloud descended to the moment it completely disappeared, a total of 2 hours had passed. In these 2 hours, Ningyu did not die under the bombardment of the tribulation clouds. Instead, he successfully killed several tribulation clouds. Phew! After repelling the second tribulation cloud, Ningyu could not help but let out a long sigh of relief. That was close. The second tribulation cloud was huge in number and terrifying in power. In order to resist this tribulation cloud, Ningyu did not hesitate to squeeze out all the medicinal energy from the five-fingered divine elixir. However, just as Ningyu was about to relax, his body trembled as he stared at the void above his head. Rumble! A crisp rumbling sound was heard. Then, 9 tribulation clouds as thick as a person's waist descended from the 9 heavens. What the F***ck? When he sensed the terrifying destructive force contained within every single tribulation cloud, even if Ningyu was mentally prepared in advance, he still couldn't help but gasp and curse loudly at this moment. Intermediate Earth Immortal Stage. The destructive power of each tribulation cloud was equivalent to a fully armed intermediate Earth Immortal Stage martial artist. Ning Yu might not have such an expression if he were to face one of the tribulation clouds alone. But how could Ning Yu not be surprised to face 9 of them at once? Block them. Ning Yu was not the kind of person who would retreat. He stomped his feet on the ground again, and flew straight towards the 9 terrifying tribulation clouds. Ning Yu was very clear that even if he consumed all the medicinal energy in the 5-fingered divine elixir, it would still be difficult to face 9 intermediate Earth immortal stage martial artists at the same time. Chapter 1938. Bang Bang Bang. It turned out that no matter how strong Ning Yu's soul power was, he couldn't withstand the impact of 9 tribulation clouds at the same time. Even though Ning Yu tried his best and burned his soul power and essence chi to withstand the tribulation clouds, he could only withstand 6 of them. The remaining 3 tribulation clouds broke through his defense and bombarded Ning Yu's body. Ning Yu spat out a mouthful of dark red blood on the spot after being hit by the 3 terrifying tribulation clouds, and his whole body was blasted away. Swish! Swish! When Ning Yu was sent flying, the remaining 6 tribulation clouds broke through his soul power and essence chi defense and attacked him rapidly. In an instant, 6 tribulation clouds bombarded his body. Ning Yu opened his mouth and spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. After being hit by 9 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a mid-stage Earth immortal expert, Ning Yu's aura dropped to the freezing point. He stood on the spot and was on the verge of collapsing. Boom! After the 9 tribulation clouds ended, the void seemed to have returned to peace. It's over. From afar, seeing that the tribulation clouds above Ning Yu's head had disappeared and returned to peace, the aquiline-nosed old man frowned slightly and seemed to be a little uncertain. Although Ning Yu's great tribulation of human immortal had triggered 9 tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a mid-stage Earth immortal expert, the aquiline-nosed old man still felt that something was wrong. Go and capture Ning Yu alive. There must be some sacred grade elixir pills left in his body. The bald man widened his eyes and clenched his fists tightly, wanting to rush forward. How much energy was contained in a sacred grade elixir pill? In the bald man's opinion, it was impossible for Ning Yu to refine all the sacred grade elixir pills. As long as he could capture Ning Yu alive and refine Ning Yu on the spot, he would be able to obtain the remaining sacred grade elixir pills in Ning Yu's body. You two go and test it out. This time, the hook-nosed old man didn't reprimand the bald man. Instead, he frowned slightly and shifted his gaze to the other 2 late Earth immortal experts. Let's see if we can capture Ning Yu alive. Understood. The other 2 late Earth immortal experts nodded, and then they dashed out in unison towards Ning Yu. The hawk-nosed old man's thoughts were actually biased towards Ning Yu's human immortal tribulation. Otherwise, how could he have allowed his 2 companions to risk their lives? Someone's there. Ning Yu wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Just as he was about to do his best to recover and prepare to resist the next round of tribulation clouds, he was surprised to find 2 cultivators rushing towards him. When Ning Yu sensed 2 reckless cultivators charging at him, his pupils constricted. He had the urge to curse. It doesn't matter if you want to die, but don't drag me along. Others might not know, but as the person involved, Ning Yu knew it very well. His human immortal tribulation hadn't ended yet. It was most appropriate to say that it had just begun. Get out of here if you don't want to die. Ning Yu stared at the 2 late Earth immortal experts and shouted, My human immortal tribulation hasn't ended yet. If you come in without permission, you'll definitely be smashed into pieces by the tribulation clouds. Are you dreaming? Ning Yu's rebuke didn't stop the 2 late Earth immortal experts. They just paused in midair for a while and sneered at Ning Yu. Do you think you're the reincarnation of a Xian immortal from the 9 heavens? It's just a human immortal tribulation, but you make it sound like a celestial immortal tribulation. Oh no. However, these two advanced stage earthly immortal realm experts hadn't even finished speaking when their expressions turned grim. Whoosh, whoosh. Two terrifying tribulation clouds descended from the 9 heavens and blasted towards them. Damn it! Why hasn't his human immortal tribulation ended yet? Looking at the huge tribulation clouds that were rushing towards them, the two late Earth immortal experts couldn't help but curse. They could feel that the tribulation clouds that were coming towards them were very powerful. They were equivalent to a full-force attack from a peak late Earth immortal expert. Although they were both late Earth immortal experts, they still had a lingering fear in the face of such terrifying tribulation clouds. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. However, what shocked them even more was yet to come. Two tribulation clouds that were equivalent to a full-force attack from a peak late Earth immortal expert wasn't the end, but the starting point. Then, for more terrifying tribulation clouds descended. The power of each tribulation cloud was no less than a full-force attack from a peak late Earth immortal expert. Crack! There was even an explosion in the void, and a tribulation cloud that was several feet thick gradually appeared in the sky. Miserable shrieks came out from the mouths of the two late Earth immortal experts. Facing 6 terrifying tribulation clouds, the two late Earth immortal experts didn't last long before they were drowned in the tribulation cloud. Exceptional Earth immortal expert. Ning Yu's attention wasn't on the two late Earth immortal experts. What he was concerned about was the tribulation cloud that appeared in the void. This tribulation cloud should be the last tribulation cloud of the human immortal tribulation. As long as he could successfully resist the impact of this tribulation cloud, his human immortal tribulation would be completely over. How could there be a tribulation cloud of the exceptional Earth immortal expert? Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian, who were in the distance, opened their mouths slightly and their faces were full of surprise. When they were undergoing their human immortal tribulation, the most powerful tribulation cloud was only a mid-stage Earth immortal expert's tribulation cloud. It was the first time they had seen a tribulation cloud of the exceptional Earth immortal expert like Ning Yu did. It must be the last two martial artists who rushed in rashly, causing the power of the human immortal tribulation to increase several times. Xiao Xian said in a deep voice as he could see more clearly. Under normal circumstances, the power of the last tribulation cloud of Ning Yu's human immortal tribulation should be around the late-stage Earth immortal level. But now, the two martial artists rushed in rashly, causing the power of the human immortal tribulation to increase several times. He's probably done for. Luo Shueha shook his head slowly. He didn't think that Ning Yu could withstand the last tribulation cloud. Sigh. Apart from Luo Shueha, even Xiao Xian, who was extremely optimistic about Ning Yu, sighed and expressed his agreement. If Ning Yu was able to withstand the tribulation cloud of the perfection stage earthly immortal realm, then wouldn't it mean that if he was able to successfully overcome the tribulation of the human immortal realm, then advancing to the heavenly immortal realm in the future would be a sure thing? Let's go all out. Looking up at the huge tribulation cloud that had formed, Ning Yu took a deep breath as if he had made a big decision. Against such a terrifying tribulation cloud, Ning Yu knew that it was almost impossible for him to withstand it with the strength of his essence qi and soul force. Under such circumstances, he only had one way. That was to use the boundless embodiment technique to create a fake of himself and let the fake him resist the tribulation cloud. This was very risky. If he failed, he would fall into a state of eternal damnation and be directly smashed into pieces by the tribulation cloud. But if he succeeded, the benefits he would gain would be huge. Chapter 1939. Myriad Embodiment Transformations. Ning Yu was not an indecisive person. With a thought, he executed the myriad embodiment transformations on the spot. Buzz. Following the execution of the myriad embodiment transformations, Ning Yu's body began to spin at an extremely terrifying speed. Moreover, Ning Yu's spinning became faster and faster. In the end, gusts of strong winds formed around Ning Yu's body, practically enveloping Ning Yu from all directions without any blind spots. Before long, a martial artist that looked extremely similar to Ning Yu suddenly appeared beside Ning Yu. Two Ning Yus. Seeing the martial artist beside Ning Yu, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man were very puzzled. Because no matter how they looked at it, the martial artist beside Ning Yu was no different from Ning Yu. In fact, it was even more realistic. Crack! At this moment, the tribulation cloud that was several zhang thick suddenly descended from midair, ruthlessly blasting towards Ning Yu. Crossing the sea by deception. Looking at the huge tribulation cloud rushing towards him, Ning Yu leaped up and merged with the clone beside him. Boom! Just as Ning Yu merged with the clone, the huge tribulation cloud descended and blasted the clone's head. Poof! The instant the tribulation cloud and the clone's head came into contact, it exploded. The huge explosion caused the clone's head to explode on the spot, turning it into a bloody mess. Retreat! Ning Yu's mind was highly focused. The instant the clone's head exploded, he hurriedly dashed out of the clone's body and took out the Tower of Yuzu. Ning Yu had changed his mind now. Initially, he wanted to use the clone to cross the sea by deceiving the heavens. But as the tribulation cloud descended, he suddenly changed his mind and decided to capture this terrifying tribulation cloud and bring it into the Tower of Yuzu. One had to admit that Ning Yu's idea was very bold and imaginative. Get in! Ning Yu summoned the Ascension Pagoda and opened it with his mind. What happened next made everyone a little dumbfounded. The tribulation cloud, which was several feet thick, actually entered the Tower of Ascension. That pagoda will definitely be destroyed. This thought appeared in the minds of the hook-nosed old man and Luo Shueha. After all, how could a tribulation cloud with a might comparable to a perfection stage earthly immortal realm be trapped by a random magic treasure? Even if Ning Yu used the Tower of Ascension to trap the tribulation clouds, he would not be able to enjoy the baptism of the lightning tribulation. Passing the tribulation was secondary. The true baptism of the lightning tribulation was the most important thing. However, what Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man expected did not happen. On the contrary, Ning Yu kept the Yuzuan pagoda and soared into the sky. Thunder Calamity Pool. Luo Shueha, the hook-nosed old man, and the others were dumbfounded when they saw a huge pool suddenly appear in midair. They knew very well what the appearance of the Thunder Calamity Pool meant. The appearance of the Thunder Calamity Pool meant that Ning Yu would receive the baptism of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. The Lightning Tribulation Fluid was the dream of every person who had experienced the tribulation of the earthly immortal realm. Generally speaking, not everyone who went through the tribulation would have the chance to have the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. For example, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man had never seen the Thunder Calamity Pool or the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian were slightly stronger. They were the geniuses of their respective families or sects, peerless experts at the top of the longevity roll. The Thunder Calamity Pool and the Lightning Tribulation Fluid had appeared in their earthly immortal realm. However, the Thunder Calamity Pool that appeared during their tribulation was only the size of a bowl. There was only 1 or 2 drops of the Lightning Tribulation Fluid. Ning Yu's Thunder Calamity Pool was enough to accommodate a martial artist to bathe in it. How much Lightning Tribulation Fluid was there? Luo Shueha and Xiao Xian did not dare to think about it, nor could they imagine it. Ah! Ning Yu laughed and leaped into the sky. He stepped on the magic cloud and charged into the Thunder Calamity Pool. Gulp, gulp, gulp. After rushing into the Thunder Calamity Pool, Ning Yu opened his mouth and drank the Lightning Tribulation Fluid in big mouthfuls. Go! We can't let him enjoy it alone. Quick, the lightning tribulation fluid is good stuff, we must snatch it. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man went crazy. It was the first time they had seen so much lightning tribulation fluid. When Ningyu was going through the tribulation, they did not dare to rush up. Now that the tribulation cloud was over and it was time to enjoy the fruit, how could they stay where they were? Even if they could snatch a mouthful of the lightning tribulation fluid, the benefits would be immeasurable. Should we go up and get a share? Seeing the hook-nosed old man and the bald man rush up, Luo Shueha frowned slightly and looked at Xiao Xian next to him and asked, "So much lightning tribulation fluid, even a real sky immortal would be tempted, let alone Luo Shueha, who was a late-stage earth immortal warrior." "Wait a little longer," Xiao Xian said in a deep voice. For some reason, ever since Ningyu went through the great tribulation of man-deity, he always felt that Ningyu was not simple. The lightning tribulation fluid was naturally very tempting to him. But on this matter, he chose to wait and see for the time being. After all, Ningyu had given them too many shocks. Just when they all thought that Ningyu's great tribulation of man-deity was about to end, a few terrifying tribulation clouds appeared in the air inexplicably. Moreover, these tribulation clouds were powerful enough to kill two late Earth immortal experts. Now that Ningyu was enjoying the lightning tribulation fluid in the thunder calamity pool, his idea was to wait and see first to see the situation of the hook-nosed old man and the bald man. Although the lightning tribulation fluid was precious, one had to be alive to get it. That is the lightning tribulation fluid. If each of us can get a cup, we can even advance several ranks on the longevity roll. Xiao Xian's reaction obviously made Luo Shueha a little excited. His name wasn't very high on the longevity roll. Once he could get a cup of the lightning tribulation fluid, he could at least advance several ranks on the longevity roll. By then, he would even have a chance to become a sky immortal. His strength is not simple. With our current strength, we may not be his match. Xiao Xian shook his head and warned solemnly, "If you want the lightning tribulation fluid, I advise you to treat him with respect and exchange with something. If you rush up rashly, it is very likely that you will become his enemy." "An enemy is an enemy. In front of the lightning tribulation fluid, I don't mind being his enemy." Luo Shueha's eyes burst out a terrifying light, then he immediately stepped on the ground and quickly rushed towards Ningyu. I hope you don't regret it." Xiao Xian looked at Luo Shueha, who was constantly rushing towards Ningyu, sighed and murmured. Xiao Xian could not change what Luo Shueha did. All he could do was choose to be on good terms with Ningyu and do everything possible to help Ningyu. Ningyu's tribulation here caused a great commotion. He believed that not long after, there would be some people around to watch the show. When those people came to watch the show, their first thought would probably be the same as Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man, to snatch the lightning tribulation fluid. Xiao Xian's idea was not to help Ningyu deal with those people, but to protect the two warriors who had advanced to the early stage Earth immortal realm not far away. Chapter 1940. To be honest, both Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an were dumbfounded. Their human immortal tribulation had appeared out of nowhere, and they had successfully advanced to the early human immortal stage. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an exchanged glances when they felt the terrifying power in their bodies. They could see the disbelief in each other's eyes. "We've advanced to the human immortal stage just like that?" Yi Jiansong asked. "That's right. We've advanced to the human immortal stage." Meng Chang'an nodded and shifted his gaze to Ningyu, who was hovering in midair. He said, "We have to thank Ningyu. If it wasn't for him, we would have died in the tribulation clouds." "Yes, we have to thank Ningyu. After all, it's not good." Yi Jiansong nodded when he heard Meng Chang'an's words. He wanted to express his gratitude to Ningyu. However, his expression changed drastically when he was halfway through his sentence. It was because he saw the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man charging at Ning Yu. They had seen the two advanced Earth Immortal stage martial artists who were killed by the lightning tribulation. They were very worried at that time. How could they not be surprised when they saw the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man charging at Ning Yu? Ning Yu, be careful! In the midst of the shock, Meng Chang'an and Yi Jiansong didn't forget to remind the others loudly. Humph! In the lightning tribulation pool, Ning Yu swallowed a few mouthfuls of the lightning tribulation liquid. He looked at the old man with the aquiline nose and the bald man coldly and snorted, "There's a path to heaven, but you chose to barge into hell. Today I'll show you what true strength is." Break through! Ning Yu waved his hands and suddenly stood up from the lightning tribulation pool. As Ning Yu stood up, a terrifying aura surged out from his body. Bang! Bang! Two muffled sounds were heard. Ning Yu's aura had risen from the intermediate human immortal stage to the paramount human immortal stage. Before his worldly immortal tribulation, Ning Yu was in the intermediate worldly immortal stage. After the worldly immortal tribulation ended, Ning Yu was not in a hurry to raise his cultivation level. Instead, he wanted to baptize himself in the lightning tribulation fluid. However, the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man's sudden attack caused him to change his strategy. He would first raise his cultivation, then deal with the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man. Finally, he would go collect the lightning tribulation liquid. Even if you break through to the Earth Immortal stage, I can still kill you with a flip of my hand, let alone a breakthrough to the full circle human immortal stage. Even though Ning Yu had advanced to the perfected human immortal realm, the hook-nosed old man still did not take Ning Yu seriously. The aquiline-nosed old man was at the late earthly immortal stage, so why would he worry about a mere martial artist at the great circle of the human immortal stage? Human immortal great circle, enough to kill you. A cold glint shot out from Ning Yu's eyes. Soon after, he gripped the red demon sword and charged towards the hook-nosed elder. Slash! Along with a low shout, a sword radiance separated from the red demon sword and slashed at the hook-nosed elder rapidly. Child's play. Facing the sword radiance that was constantly charging at him, the hook-nosed elder flicked his sleeve and casually threw out a cold radiance, trying to block the sword radiance that Ning Yu slashed out. Crack! The ideal was great, but the reality was harsh. The moment the cold radiance that the hook-nosed elder unleashed came into contact with the sword radiance that Ning Yu slashed out, a cracking sound was heard, and it shattered. The shattering of the cold radiance caused the hook-nosed elder to raise his eyebrows, feeling a little surprised. The hook-nosed elder was very confident in the cold radiance that he unleashed. Even though he could not kill a late earthly immortal stage martial artist, it was still easy for him to kill an early earthly immortal stage martial artist. But now that the cold radiance that he unleashed to deal with the sword radiance that Ning Yu had unleashed, he did not gain the upper hand. How could he not be surprised? Not bad, huh? I wonder if you can withstand my second attack. The hook-nosed elder lifted the corner of his lips into an arc. Then, he flicked his sleeve and unleashed the second cold radiance. Swoosh! However, just as the hook-nosed elder unleashed the second cold radiance, he noticed that Ning Yu had turned his head and was charging to the other side. Trying to escape? Ning Yu's action caused the hook-nosed elder to be slightly startled. Then, he said disdainfully, "I knew that you..." As the hook-nosed elder's questioning voice was heard, he noticed something extremely shocking. Ning Yu did not intend to escape, but turned around to deal with the bald man. Anyone who dares to touch the lightning calamity pool must die. Ning Yu held the red demon sword and charged straight at the bald man who was about to reach the lightning calamity pool. Ha ha ha, the lightning calamity fluid is mine. Seeing that he was about to grab the lightning calamity pool, the bald man could not help but laugh. However, not long after he finished laughing, he discovered something terrifying. Ning Yu held the red demon sword and had already arrived in front of him. He stood between him and the lightning calamity pool. "Get lost!" the bald man yelled. He clenched his right fist and wanted to push Ningyu back. Crack! The bald man had just extended his right hand when he realized that Ningyu was holding the red demon sword and was slashing at his wrist. A crisp sound was heard. Then, a pig-slaughtering scream came from the bald man's mouth. "What's going on?" The sudden change caused the hook-nosed elder's pupils to shrink as he exclaimed. You, the bald man looked at his broken right hand and looked at Ningyu in front of him. Even his voice was trembling. He had never thought that Ningyu would be able to chop off his right hand. "I don't have time for you." Ningyu's attention was not all on the bald man. He divided his attention into 4 portions. One portion was placed on the bald man. One portion was placed on the hook-nosed elder. As for the last 2 portions, he placed them on Luo Shueha. In the void, Luo Shueha's expression became very ugly. He originally wanted to make a forceful move and snatch the lightning calamity fluid. But he did not expect that Ningyu defeated the bald man in 3 moves. Under this sort of situation, he naturally had to reconsider. It was still alright if he could kill Ningyu in 1 blow. But if he could not kill Ningyu, he might ultimately fall into an irrecoverable situation. Should I make a move or not? Luo Shueha clenched his fists tightly. He was having an intense mental struggle in his heart. If he made a move, he did not have 100% confidence in killing Ningyu. If he did not make a move, he could not forget about the lightning calamity fluid. The lightning calamity fluid is good stuff. If I miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. Luo Shueha seemed to have made a very big decision. His eyes were cold as he charged out. Without a doubt, his target was Ningyu. Only by getting rid of Ningyu could he snatch the lightning calamity fluid. "Sai, you still made a move in the end." Not far away, Xiao Xian could not help but sigh and shake his head when he saw that Luo Shueha still charged towards Ningyu in the end. After exchanging blows with Ningyu and the bald man, Xiao Xian was almost certain that Ningyu's current true combat power, even if it was not at the perfected Earth Immortal level, it was already infinitely close to it. Chapter 1941. Brat, hand over the lightning tribulation fluid and I can spare your life. Since he had decided to make a move to snatch the lightning tribulation fluid, Luo Shueha's speed was extremely fast, appearing in front of Ningyu in the blink of an eye. Luo Shueha's right hand clenched into a fist, looking like he was about to punch towards Ningyu. Luo Shueha's attitude was very clear. If Ningyu handed the lightning tribulation fluid to him, everything would be fine. But if Ningyu refused to come to his senses and refused to hand over the lightning tribulation fluid, then he would be ruthless and kill Ningyu on the spot. "Who do you think you are to be fit to speak to me like this?" Ningyu looked at Luo Shueha coldly and said darkly, "If you want the lightning tribulation fluid, you can go and transcend the human immortal tribulation yourself. Coming to snatch mine, what kind of ability is that?" Hearing Ningyu's words, Luo Shueha smiled strangely and said sinisterly, "Who cares if it's a black cat or white cat? The cat that catches the mouse is a good cat. The lightning tribulation fluid is a good thing. A martial artist at the perfected human immortal realm like you isn't fit to possess so much lightning tribulation fluid." Before making a move, Luo Shueha still had some reservations. After all, the power of Ningyu's human immortal tribulation was simply too strong. Furthermore, Ningyu advanced from the mid-stage human immortal realm to the perfected human immortal realm in such a short time. He was worried that he wasn't Ningyu's match and would lose his footing. Therefore, he did not make a move right away, but wanted to use words to convince Ningyu. If Ningyu's performance was a little stronger and attacked him directly, he might still have some reservations. But Ningyu's performance was truly too disappointing. Ningyu actually berated him? Could it be that Ningyu thought that a simple berating could make him back off in the face of difficulties? The answer was clearly no. Remember, the name of the person who killed you is Luo Shuehe. The corners of Luo Shuehe's mouth curled up. He first spoke to Ningyu, then turned his head to look at Xiao Xian, who was in the sky not far away. Brother Xiao, the facts have proven that you've made a mistake today. I'll kindly accept all of this tribulation lightning liquid. Xiao. The moment he finished speaking, the Luo River rose from the ground and charged at Ningyu with incredible speed. In Luo Shuehe's opinion, Ningyu was an embroidered pillow, pleasant to look at but useless. Although he had repelled the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, his true battle prowess should be more than a level lower than his. Because with his combat strength, he would be able to kill the hook-nosed old man and the bald man within 10 moves. Could it be that I really misjudged him? Xiao Xian frowned. This was the first time he doubted his judgment. To be honest, he also wanted the Thunder Tribulation liquid very much. If he hadn't judged that Ningyu was extremely powerful, he would have definitely tried to snatch it. However, Ningyu's performance now made him a little disappointed. Wait a little longer. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian stared at Ningyu and the Luo River, who were about to collide, wanting to confirm his judgment once again. There's a path to heaven, but you refuse to go. There's no door to hell, but you barge in. Looking at the Luo River that was getting closer and closer to him, Ningyu finally got angry. The reason why he didn't use his full strength right away was that he had split his attention to pay attention to the hook-nosed old man and the bald man. No matter what, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man were late-stage Earth immortal martial artists, and their combat strength was not weak. Now that Luo Shuehe was bullying him, Ningyu immediately decided to give up on the hook-nosed old man and the bald man and turn to deal with Luo Shuehe. Red Demon Sword. Ningyu held the Red Demon Sword and shouted. Swoosh. As Ningyu shouted, a cold light suddenly shot out from the storage ring. Without a doubt, this cold light was the Red Demon. The Red Demon drew a mark in the air and entered the Red Demon Sword in the blink of an eye. Without the Red Demon Sword's power would be reduced by a level. Only when the Red Demon and the Red Demon Sword fused together could the Red Demon Sword be considered a true Sage Flying Sword, a mid-grade Sage Flying Sword. Slash! Ningyu's body surged with primordial chi and injected it all into the Red Demon Sword. He slashed at Luo River. Whoosh! The power of Ningyu's sword could be said to be extremely powerful. The void trembled and finally, a huge gap appeared in the middle. The sword beam that was as thick as a person's waist cleaved through space and directly attacked the Luo River. What? Seeing the sword light appear in midair, even though Luo River knew how terrifying Ningyu was, he couldn't help but exclaim. He thought that he had overestimated Ningyu, but who would have thought that he still underestimated Ningyu? Merely based on this sword light that Ningyu slashed out, Ningyu's combat strength was approaching the perfection stage of the earthly immortal realm. I'm not his match. Luo Shuehe made a decision almost instantly. His cultivation base was only at the late earthly immortal stage, a step away from the peak of the earthly immortal stage, let alone the great circle of the earthly immortal stage. The earthly immortal realm was divided into early earthly immortal realm, mid-earthly immortal realm, late earthly immortal realm, peak earthly immortal realm, and great circle earthly immortal realm. Among them, a perfected earth immortal was also known as a half-step heaven immortal. The power of Ningyu's sword strike was close to that of a half-step heaven immortal. It was equivalent to a full-powered strike from a half-step heaven immortal. Even the top 3 geniuses on the longevity roll might not be able to do that. Luo Shuehe was extremely shocked. Each of the top 3 geniuses on the longevity roll had the potential to become a sky immortal. In the past, Luo Shuehe had the honor of meeting the 3rd genius on the longevity roll. Now, facing Ningyu, Luo Shueha felt more pressure than facing the third genius on the longevity roll. Damn it! Luo Shueha knew that it was too late to run away. The only thing he could do now was to take on Ning Yu's attack head-on. Luo Shueha knew that Ning Yu was only a perfection stage mortal deity, and he could only use this attack once. In other words, if he could block the attack from Ning Yu, then Ning Yu would be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Luo Divine Fist. Taking a deep breath, Luo Shueha's body expanded and a faint purple aura appeared on his fist. He threw a punch at the giant sword aura in front of him. Crack! As soon as the fist and the sword aura came into contact, there was a crisp sound. Then, Luo Shueha was sent flying and landed heavily on the ground. Blood spurted out of Luo Shueha's mouth and his breath was weak. Ha ha ha! Although his breath was weak, Luo Shueha managed to block the sword aura from Ning Yu. Luo Shueha wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and struggled to get up from the ground. He laughed wildly and said, "Kid, that sword aura must be your trump card, right? Let's see what else you can do now. Now kneel down and kowtow to me a few times, and I can consider sparing your life. Otherwise, I'll skin you alive, pull out your tendons, and refine you into a puppet. I'll make you my slave for all eternity," Luo Shueha said proudly. He thought that Ning Yu would only be able to use his most terrifying sword aura once. Even though his breath was weak, he still managed to block the sword aura that was equivalent to a half-step sky immortal. Chapter 1942. Idiot! Ning Yu glanced at Luo Shueha, then ignored him and rushed towards the lightning pool. It wasn't that Ning Yu didn't want to kill Luo Shueha, but he needed to get back to the lightning pool as soon as possible and get rid of the old man and the bald man. These two people were the cancerous tumors. Ning Yu didn't want the aquiline-nosed old man and the bald man to steal the lightning tribulation pond while he was fighting with Luo Shueha. What? You said I'm an idiot? Luo Shueha was so angry that his nose became crooked when he heard Ning Yu's evaluation of him. His eyes widened and he said coldly, "Today, I will let you know what true strength is. Don't think that you're invincible just because you can unleash a sword light that's equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal. To tell you the truth, that's because I didn't." However, Luo Shueha's words stopped abruptly halfway through his sentence. This was because something that he found extremely inconceivable had happened ahead of him. Ning Yu wielded the red demon sword and slashed out 2 rays of sword light. Whoosh! Whoosh! 2 streaks of sword radiance flew side by side towards the hook-nosed old man and the bald man at the same time. Luo Shueha opened his mouth slightly. His face was filled with disbelief. At this moment, even if Luo Shueha was an idiot, he could tell the power of the 2 rays of sword light that Ning Yu slashed out. The power of the 2 terrifying rays of sword light wasn't any weaker than the one that attacked him just now. Luo Shueha couldn't understand it no matter how hard he tried. Ning Yu was only a great perfection stage human immortal. How could he unleash sword light that was equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal? It was fine if he could unleash 1 ray, but he could unleash 3 in a row. How could he not be shocked? Shit! In midair, the old man and the bald man's pupils shrank and their faces turned green. They saw it clearly when Ning Yu was dealing with Luo Shueha. Like Luo Shueha, they thought that Ning Yu could no longer unleash a sword beam that was equivalent to the full force strike of a half-step heaven immortal. Who would have thought that Ning Yu would slash out such a terrifying sword light? Split up and run. The hook-nosed old man and the bald man's first thought was to escape, not resist. They were very self-aware. Even Luo Shueha could barely block the sword light, let alone the 2 of them. If they split up and ran, there would still be a chance of survival. Staying here would only mean death. Chi-chi. However, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man had clearly underestimated the power of Ning Yu's sword ray. The sword radiance seemed to have a tracking function. As they fled in different directions, the the sword radiance also split up and chased after them, locking onto them tightly. Ah! Ah! The hook-nosed old man and the bald man's escape did not last long before they were interrupted by two screams. Without a doubt, their speed was not as fast as the sword light, and in the blink of an eye, the sword light had caught up with them. Facing two sword lights that were equivalent to the full force strike of a half-step heaven immortal, how could the two of them resist? Screams like pigs being slaughtered constantly came out of the hook-nosed old man and the bald man's mouth. The sword radiance dissipated, and Ningyu could not help but frown when he saw the hook-nosed old man and the bald man falling to the ground. With the density of the Yuan Qi in his body, being able to cast 3 sword radiances was already the limit of his limit. Even if the sword radiance did not kill the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, he had to give up and jump into the lightning pool, gulping down the lightning tribulation liquid. Plop! Seeing Ningyu jump into the lightning pool, Luo Shueha and the hook-nosed old man rolled their eyes and had a vague guess in their hearts. Casting the sword radiance thrice might be Ningyu's limit. Swish! Swish! Moving their feet, Luo Shueha, the hook-nosed old man and the bald man, the three of them did not give up and quietly gathered together while Ningyu was swallowing the lightning tribulation liquid. Luo Shueha even sent a soul message to Xiao Xian. If you make a move now, there is a 99% chance of killing Ningyu and snatching the lightning tribulation liquid. I advise you to leave. Through the 3 sword radiances that Ningyu slashed out consecutively, Xiao Xian had already roughly judged Ningyu's strength. Of course, the strength that Xiao Xian judged was only before Ningyu swallowed the lightning tribulation liquid. Now that Ningyu had swallowed a large amount of lightning tribulation liquid, his strength had increased exponentially. Just now, if he and Luo Shueha attacked together to deal with Ningyu, there might be a chance of success. As for now, if he dared to make a move, the final outcome would definitely be death. So timid, no wonder you're being targeted everywhere in the Xiao family. Hearing Xiao Xian's advice, Luo Shueha snorted coldly, then ignored Xiao Xian and started to discuss with the hook-nosed old man and the bald man on how to deal with Ningyu. Sigh, good advice is unpleasant to the ear, bitter medicine is good for the illness. Seeing that Luo Shueha was still going his own way, Xiao Xian sighed and muttered, "Everyone says that Luo Shueha is arrogant and conceited. I didn't believe it in the past, but today it seems that it is indeed so." Xiao Xian had already made up his mind. He wanted to completely cut off all relations with Luo Shueha and the Luo family. Because in his opinion, it was not wise for Luo Shueha to offend Ningyu today. A terrifying genius like Ningyu was definitely the disciple or son of a big shot in a higher plane. Offending Ningyu was extremely likely to be offending a sky immortal. Lightning tribulation liquid. Xiao Xian quickly retracted his thoughts and stared at Ningyu in the thunderbolt pool, his eyes filled with envy. There was so much lightning tribulation liquid, if he could get a cup, it would be a great benefit to him. Gulp. In the air, within the thunderbolt pool. Ningyu's focus was not on Luo Shueha or the hook-nosed old man. On the contrary, Ningyu placed most of his attention on Xiao Xian. In Ningyu's opinion, Xiao Xian was much stronger than Luo Shueha. If Xiao Xian attacked from the start, he might not be able to withstand it. So before he completely enjoyed the lightning tribulation liquid, he had to be wary of Xiao Xian, in case Xiao Xian suddenly attacked. Crack, crack, crack. As Ningyu continued to devour, the lightning tribulation liquid in the thunderbolt pool decreased and his aura became more and more powerful. Although his cultivation was still at the perfected human immortal stage, Ningyu's combat power had increased by several times. Strictly speaking, Ningyu could cast 3 sword rays that were equivalent to a half-step sky immortal's full power attack. Now, he could cast 30 sword rays. Continue devouring. Ning Yu ignored the cracking sounds coming from his body and continued to devour the lightning tribulation liquid with all his might. The effect of the lightning tribulation liquid was extremely powerful. Ning Yu's body had actually been tempered several times. Once when he was in the body tempering realm, true dragon blood, Qilin blood, world tree, after so many times of body tempering, the impurities in Ning Yu's body had become very few. But now, Ning Yu actually felt a large amount of impurities emerging in his body. Attack! Chapter 1943. Humph! I knew you wouldn't give up. Seeing Luo Shuehe and the hook-nosed old man charging at him, Ning Yu snorted coldly and dashed out of the thunderbolt pool. The violent yuan qi in his body surged and poured into the red demon sword. Then, Ning Yu waved the red demon sword and slashed out another terrifying sword light. Chi! Chi! The friction between the sword light and the air produced a hissing sound. What? Luo Shuehe and the hook-nosed old man turned pale with fright when they saw Ning Yu's sword light. What surprised them was not that Ning Yu could still slash out another sword light, but that compared to the previous sword light, the power of this sword light was even greater. The sword light that Ning Yu had slashed out last time was equivalent to the all-out attack of a martial artist who had just reached the half-step heavenly immortal realm. But this time, the power of the sword light was equivalent to the all-out attack of a martial artist who had been in the half-step heavenly immortal realm for many years. After all, there were differences in strength among half-step heavenly immortals. Some were strong, some were weak. The strongest half-step heavenly immortal might even have a chance of escaping from a heavenly immortal expert. The reason why Luo Shuehe and the aquiline-nosed old man dared to join forces to deal with Ning Yu was because they had discussed it and felt that if the three of them combined their trump cards, they would be able to block Ning Yu's sword beam. But now that they saw the power of Ning Yu's sword light, they instantly made a decision. Run. Run at all costs. As the saying went, where there is life, there is hope. As long as they could escape this calamity, there would be opportunities to take revenge on Ning Yu in the future. Can you escape? Ning Yu looked at the fleeing Luo Shuehe and the hook-nosed old man. He waved the red demon sword in his right hand and slashed out several more sword lights. Whoosh! The sword lights separated from the red demon sword as if they were worthless and rushed towards Luo Shuehe and the hook-nosed old man. Before long, Luo Shuehe and the hook-nosed old man were engulfed by the terrifying sword lights. Hiss! The sudden change caused Xiao Xian, who was not far away, to inhale a breath of cold air. Xiao Xian knew that the Luo River was finished. No matter how powerful Luo Shuehe was, there was no way he could be stronger than the top 5 martial artists on the longevity roll. Ning Yu's sword aura alone was enough to put him in the top 5 or even the top 3 of the longevity roll. Ka. It turned out that Xiao Xian's judgment was accurate. Under the bombardment of several sword lights, Luo Shuehe and the aquiline-nosed old man only managed to hold on for 3 minutes before all the bones in their bodies shattered and they were reduced to nothingness. Sigh, what a pity! Ning Yu shook his head and sighed when he saw Luo Shuehe, the hook-nosed old man, and the others being blasted to smithereens. He had advanced to the great circle of the human immortal stage, and he had a large amount of lightning tribulation liquid to devour and refine, so he didn't really need to devour the Luo River and the aquiline-nosed old man. But Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor needed it. Ning Yu could almost imagine that when Ning Lu found out what happened here, he would definitely question him. I'd better continue to seal the storage ring for a while, Ning Yu thought to himself as he jumped into the thunderbolt pool. In order not to implicate the human demon and Ning Lu when he transcended the human immortal tribulation, Ning Yu completely sealed his storage ring. To be precise, since Ning Yu started his tribulation, the storage ring had only been opened once, and it was only for a short period of time, just to call out the Red Fiend. Other than that, he had sealed the storage ring perfectly, so Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor didn't know what was happening outside. Gulp. In the thunderbolt pool, Ning Yu continued to devour the lightning tribulation liquid. Although the effect of the lightning tribulation liquid on Ning Yu's strength was negligible, it was still a great improvement for body tempering. What a waste of God's gift! In the distance, Xiao Xian saw Ning Yu's actions and kept shaking his head and sighing. As a late-stage Earth Immortal warrior, he could naturally see that Ning Yu devouring the lightning tribulation liquid was no longer able to increase his cultivation and strength. Under such circumstances, Ning Yu was still devouring the lightning tribulation liquid on his own. In his eyes, it was a complete waste of God's gift. Drip, drip. Time was ticking away. In the blink of an eye, half an hour had passed. Ning Yu suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the lightning tribulation liquid in the thunderbolt pool for 3 seconds. Then, he took out a jade bottle and stored the excess lightning tribulation liquid in it. Then, Ning Yu jumped out of the thunderbolt pool. Buzz. As soon as Ning Yu left the thunderbolt pool shook and suddenly drilled into the void, disappearing. Come out. Ning Yu played with the jade bottle in his hand and stared at the void in the distance. I know you're hiding inside, he said indifferently. Cough. Although Xiao Xian knew that Ning Yu could find him, he still felt a little awkward when the words came out of Ning Yu's mouth. After all, he was a late-stage Earth Immortal and Ning Yu was only a perfected mortal immortal. After coughing twice, Xiao Xian's figure flashed and he flew out of the void. You know Luo Shueha? Ning Yu asked the moment he saw Xiao Xian without hiding anything. Yes. Xiao Xian did not deny it and nodded. Luo Shueha is from the Luo clan and I am from the Xiao clan. My name is Xiao Xian. Ning Yu was speechless. Luo Shueha was from the Luo clan and Xiao Xian was from the Xiao clan. Isn't this nonsense? If he wasn't from the Xiao clan or the Luo clan, could he be from the Li clan? However, Ning Yu didn't dwell on this matter. Instead, he continued, I killed Luo Shueha. What are you still doing here? Are you trying to snatch the lightning tribulation liquid from me? How is that possible? Xiao Xian hurriedly waved his hand and explained, the reason why I stayed is to tell you that you're in big trouble. I'm all ears. Ning Yu raised his eyebrows. Taking a deep breath, Xiao Xian explained, Luo Shueha and I are both from a Heaven Immortal clan. There used to be a Heaven Immortal in our clan. A clan like ours is a mainstay in the various territories, second only to powerful forces with Heaven Immortals. Seeing that Ning Yu's expression was indifferent and he did not refute, Xiao Xian sorted out his thoughts and continued, You killed Luo Shueha and offended the Luo clan. I think you should let the force behind you step in. Lobbyist? Before Xiao Xian could finish speaking, Ning Yu frowned slightly and said indifferently, On account that you did not attack earlier, I can let you leave and not bicker with you. You may have misunderstood me. Luo Shueha is the precious son of the Luo clan's current clan leader. Now that he was killed, the Luo clan will definitely send powerful cultivators to the Celestial Spirit region to seek revenge. Although you are strong, it should be difficult for you to resist those veteran half-step Heaven Immortals, right? Xiao Xian said hurriedly. To be honest, Xiao Xian was not a fool. Whether he could get the lightning tribulation liquid or not depended entirely on Ning Yu's attitude. Convince Ning Yu. Chapter 1944. Although Ning Yu was only at the perfected worldly immortal stage, his overall strength could already compete with a half-step Heaven Immortal. Plus, Ning Yu still had the heavenly tribulation liquid, so Xiao Xian thought it was a wise decision to remind him. However, Ning Yu only smiled at Xiao Xian's reminder. It has nothing to do with you whether I'm a match for a veteran half-step Heaven Immortal or not. If there's nothing else, I think you can leave now. Ning Yu asked him to leave. He had always been very indifferent to Xiao Xian and did not want to have too much contact with him. After all, Xiao Xian could still maintain his composure in the face of the heavenly tribulation liquid. This courage alone was enough to make Ningyu look at him in a different light. However, Ningyu still did not want to get entangled with Xiao Xian. Who knew if Xiao Xian still had a trump card? Did he have any helpers? Ningyu's thoughts were very clear. He did not want to get involved with Xiao Xian. You've misunderstood. I'm not an enemy. We can even be friends, Xiao Xian hurriedly said when he heard Ningyu ask him to leave. Be friends with me? Ningyu wanted to leave with Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an, but his expression suddenly changed. He pointed at the void in the distance and said, As long as you can help me kill them all, I'll admit that you're my friend, and I'll even give you a cup of heavenly tribulation liquid. Whoosh! Xiao Xian hurriedly looked into the distance after hearing Ningyu's words. This glance caused Xiao Xian to suck in a breath of cold air. Whoosh! The space trembled and several figures appeared from the void. When Xiao Xian looked carefully, he saw a total of 10 warriors standing in the same place. These martial artists were divided into 2 camps, 4 on the left and 6 on the right. Among the 4 martial artists' camp, 2 were at the advanced Earth Immortal stage and 2 were at the intermediate Earth Immortal stage. Of course, this was not the reason why Xiao Xian gasped. The reason why Xiao Xian gasped was that there were 5 late-stage Earth-level deities and 1 peak-stage Earth-level deities. Moreover, Xiao Xian could feel that this peak-stage Earth-level deity-level warrior was very talented and comparable to him. Are you the one undergoing the tribulation? After these warriors appeared, they did not pay attention to Ningyu. Instead, they focused all their attention on Xiao Xian. The warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm looked at Xiao Xian and said with interest, I didn't expect you to be so talented. You just passed the earthly immortal tribulation and your cultivation has advanced to the late stage of the earthly immortal realm. How about this? Kneel down and kowtow to me a few times and hand over the tribulation liquid. I'll spare your life and let you be my dog. The earthly immortal tribulation? To be your lackey. Xiao Xian was slightly stunned when he heard the words of the peak earthly immortal realm cultivator, and then his face turned completely gloomy. He, the dignified genius of the Xiao clan, was actually ridiculed by others like this. He really could not tolerate it. Humph! It's not like I haven't killed a peak-stage Earth-level warrior before. Let me go on a killing spree today. Xiao Xian snorted coldly. Then, he stomped on the ground and rushed out. Good timing. Looking at Xiao Xian who was rushing towards him, the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm smirked and said disdainfully, I wanted you to be my dog, but since you want to die, I can only fulfill your wish. As soon as he finished speaking, the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm grabbed the air with his right hand and a terrifying essence chi appeared. This essence chi kept jumping in the hand of the warrior at the peak of the earthly immortal realm. In the end, it turned into the shape of a flying sword and stabbed towards Xiao Xian. Small tricks. Xiao Xian was not frightened by the essence chi flying sword. Instead, he looked very calm and confident. I guess the plane barrier has completely loosened. I just don't know if there will be Earth-level overlords descending. Ningyu was not particularly concerned about Xiao Xian's battle, because he knew that with Xiao Xian's strength, even if he could not defeat a peak-stage Earth-level warrior, he would not be defeated so quickly. After all, he felt a mysterious and unpredictable aura from Xiao Xian. That aura even made his heart palpitate a little. The focus of Ningyu's attention was the 10 Earth-level overlords that appeared in front of him this time. In the past, even sage-level warriors rarely appeared in the celestial spirit state. However, with the constant loosening of the plane barrier, the current celestial spirit state had become a situation where human immortals and Earth-level immortals were as numerous as dogs. After successfully passing the great trial of human immortal and going through the baptism of the heavenly tribulation, Ningyu's strength was now very strong. It could be said that Ningyu could easily kill a late-stage Earth-level warrior. Even if he were to face a peak-stage Earth-level warrior, Ningyu could deal with him easily. Even if he were to face a perfected Earth-level warrior or a half-step Heaven Immortal, Ningyu could fight against them and even kill them. However, there was a saying that the stronger one was, the more things he had to worry about. Ningyu knew that with his current combat power, once he faced a real Heaven Immortal, there would only be a dead end. Even if he were to face a genius from a Heaven Immortal family with a heavenly treasure, he might not be able to compete with him. Heavenly treasure was the Dharma treasure of a Heaven Immortal. It was a Dharma treasure that followed the Heaven Immortal in battle. Strictly speaking, heavenly treasure was an existence that surpassed the sage level in terms of Dharma treasures. Looks like I need to break through to the Earth-level warrior as soon as possible. Ningyu looked at the two people fighting in the distance and murmured with a solemn expression. Boom! Just as Ningyu's thoughts calmed down, the situation in the distance gradually changed. A peak-stage Earth-level warrior was obviously no match for Xiao Xian in a one-on-one battle. However, the other 9 Earth-level warriors did not follow the rules. They all launched thunderous attacks at Xiao Xian when the peak-stage Earth-level warrior was at a disadvantage. Is there really no trump card? Ningyu frowned slightly. To be honest, he did not believe that Xiao Xian did not have a trump card. In his opinion, Xiao Xian just did not want to expose his strength too much. D****. Who did I offend? Xiao Xian was about to go crazy. It was not easy for him to get a cup of thunder tribulation fluid. Who the hell are you? Xiao Xian said fiercely while resisting the attacks of the 10 experts. When I return to the high-level plane, I will definitely uproot your sect. Oh, you want to uproot our sect? The peak-stage Earth-level warrior smiled and said disdainfully, To tell you the truth, my name is Lu Chuanqing and I come from the high-level plane, Sacred Divine Palace. Swoosh. As soon as the peak-stage Earth-level warrior said that, Ningyu's expression changed slightly. Sacred Divine Palace. If he remembered correctly, Sacred Divine Palace was the sect of Emperor Palace in the high-level plane. Back then, Lu Chuanqing was from Sacred Divine Palace and he seemed to be the young master of Sacred Divine Palace? Thinking of this, Ningyu stomped on the ground and suddenly rushed out. Chapter 1945. Sacred Divine Palace. Xiao Xian's face darkened when he heard Lu Chuanqing's words. In a high-level plane, the Sacred Divine Palace was a powerful force that ruled over several territories. Although the territory he was in was not under the control of the Sacred Divine Palace, he was well aware of how terrifying the Sacred Divine Palace was. For example, the territories of the Five-Fingered Immortal and the God Transformation sect were many times weaker than the Sacred Divine Palace. Most importantly, the Sacred Divine Palace would seek revenge for the smallest grievance. It was rumored that an outer sect disciple of the Sacred Divine Palace had gone to a small territory to train and died for some unknown reason. Death and injury were unavoidable when one went out to train. However, the Sacred Divine Palace had sent powerful cultivators to kill all the cultivators above the Mortal Immortal level and capture all the cultivators below the Mortal Immortal level to be slaves. That was why Xiao Xian had such an expression when he found out that Lu Chuanqing was from the Sacred Divine Palace. After all, the Xiao clan that he came from was far from the behemoth that was the Holy Divine Palace. Seeing Xiao Xian's expression, the corners of Lu Chuanqing's lips curled up slightly. If you want to live, come and kowtow to me obediently. Then, let go of your mind and let me control you. Otherwise, I will let you know what cruelty is. Xiao Xian stood rooted to the ground, his face dark. Ask him to submit to Lu Chuanqing? Obviously, that was impossible. However, if he did not submit to Lu Chuanqing, he would definitely attack the Xiao family when he returned to the high-level plane. He might even uproot the Xiao family. Xiao Xian could not afford to pay such a price. However, at this moment, an indifferent voice rang out in the area. You're right. Come here and kowtow to me. If I'm in a good mood, I can consider letting you live. Swoosh. Lu Chuanqing's face darkened when he heard those words. He clenched his fists and was on the verge of exploding. He had always spoken to others in such a tone when he was in the high-level plane because he was from the sacred divine palace. However, someone dared to speak to him in such a tone in the celestial spirit realm? Truly, if this could be tolerated, what could not? Who do you think you are? How dare you talk to me like that? Lu Chuanqing waved his sleeves and coldly said to Zuiyu, "Go and capture him. Skin him alive, pull out his tendons, and dismember him into 1,000 pieces." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as Lu Chuanqing's voice resounded, the three late earthly immortal experts beside him flashed out in unison and charged towards Ningyu. You overestimate yourself. Ningyu didn't take the three late earthly immortal stage experts seriously. The corners of his mouth curled up, and the red demon's sword in his hand casually slashed out 3 beams of sword radiance. Ha 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 ha! When Lu Chuanqing saw the 3 sword lights that Ningyu sent out, he could not help but laugh. I was wondering how strong you were. So, you are just a silver spear and a wax elephant head. In fact, it was no wonder that Lu Chuanqing had such a reaction. Even Xiao Xian, who knew Ningyu's strength, had a similar reaction. No matter how one looked at it, the power of the 3 sword lights that Ningyu sent out was only at the mid-earthly immortal stage. And the 3 martial artists who rushed towards Ningyu were all at the late earthly immortal stage. You used the sword light that was equivalent to the power of a mid-earthly immortal stage expert to deal with a late earthly immortal stage expert. Isn't this a joke? Idiot! Ningyu remained unmoved. After sending out 3 sword lights, he crossed his arms in front of his chest and watched with interest at the late earth immortal expert who was about to come into contact with the sword lights. Bang! What happened next made Lu Chuanqing's face darken to the extreme. A crisp sound was heard, and then a late earthly immortal stage expert fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Then, the other 2 late earth immortal experts also fell to the ground with a horrified look on their faces. What's going on? Xiao Xian clearly didn't know what was going on with the sudden change. Why did 3 late earthly immortal stage experts fall to the ground and seem to be dead? I want you to die. Before Xiao Xian could understand the situation, Lu Chuanqing clenched his fists and suddenly rushed out with a roar. There are many people who want me dead. Who do you think you are? Ningyu shrugged and looked at the earthly immortal stage experts behind Lu Chuanqing. Come at me together. It will save me a lot of time. Arrogant! You're courting death. Ningyu's words only angered the 2 earthly immortal stage experts on Lu Chuanqing's side. As for the other 4 martial artists, they stood still and did not make a move. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 figures, with Lu Chuanqing in front and the other 2 late earthly immortal stage experts behind, rushed towards Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. Red Devil! Ningyu shouted as he gripped the red demon's sword and faced the 3 cultivators charging at him. Even a lion would use all its strength to fight a rabbit, let alone against 3 earthly immortal stage experts. Only when the Red Devil and the Red Devil sword fused together could the Red Devil sword exert its strongest power. In order to prevent any accidents, Ningyu used all his strength and tried to defeat the enemy with one move. Slash! As he shouted, Ningyu waved the Red Devil sword in his hand. Whoosh! 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 3 waist-thick sword radiance suddenly separated from the Red Devil sword and slashed towards Lu Chuanqing and the others. Great art of destruction! Seeing that the sword radiance from Ningyu was about to reach him, Lu Chuanqing did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly displayed his trump card. Great art of destruction! The Sacred Divine Palace was a powerful sect that ruled over several territories. They possessed all kinds of high-level spells. The great art of destruction was a sacred-level martial skill. Strictly speaking, The level of the great art of destruction was much higher than the Emperor Divine Art and Supreme Nine Purities sword skill that Ningyu had mastered. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Ningyu was pondering, the three sword radiants that he had slashed out had already collided with Lu Chuanqing and the others. Since Lu Chuanqing's cultivation had reached the peak of the earthly immortal stage, he was strong enough to withstand the sword radiance that Ningyu slashed out. Lu Chuanqing was able to withstand the sword radiance, but the other two advanced earthly immortal stage experts were not so lucky. After spitting out 2 mouthfuls of blood, the 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts instantly fell to the ground and their auras became extremely weak. After struggling for a few seconds, the eyes of the 2 advanced earthly immortal stage experts rolled back and they died on the spot. Crack! Seeing that 5 of his companions were killed in an instant, Lu Chuanqing was so angry that his teeth were chattering. Dongchen, you old fart, if you don't act now, the people of your primeval demon sect will also be killed by him. Although Lu Chuanqing was angry, he did not lose his mind. He knew that with his strength, it was basically impossible for him to kill Ningyu. Chapter 1946. The Primordial Demon Sect? Ningyu frowned. The Corpse Sect, the Emperor Divine Palace, and the Blood Demon Palace indeed, had an irreconcilable feud with him. The reason why he was reborn was that he had to swallow the broken reincarnation elixir after being besieged by the 9 Earth Supremes of the Heavenly Demon region. Now that the Blood Demon Palace was here, he naturally had to meet the Primordial Demon Sect. Whoosh! Just as Ningyu was deep in thought, the void trembled, and an old man appeared out of thin air. Dongchen. The old man was none other than Dongchen, the expert from the Primordial Demon Sect that Lu Chuanqing had mentioned. Peak Earth-level deity? Ningyu frowned as he sensed the aura exuding from Dongchen. On the surface, Dongchen's aura was that of a peak Earth-level deity, but Ningyu felt that things weren't that simple, because he didn't notice Dongchen's existence. In other words, Dongchen was most likely a perfected Earth-level deity, which was half a step into the Sky deity level. Another one. Xiao Xian's reaction was many times bigger than Ningyu's. His pupils constricted as he stared at Dongchen. His heart sank to the bottom of the valley. Whether it was Dongchen or Lu Chuanqing, they were both much stronger than him. He was no match for Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing in a one-on-one fight, let alone 2 against 1. Lu Chuanqing, you can't even defeat a perfected human-level deity. It seems that the Sacred Divine Palace is just SOSO. Dongchen's gaze lingered on Ningyu for a few seconds, then shifted to Lu Chuanqing. Humph! Who doesn't know how to brag? If you can, do it yourself. As long as you can take down Ningyu, I'll admit that the Primordial Demon Sect is powerful. Lu Chuanqing snorted. In the high-level planes, the Primordial Demon Sect and the Sacred Divine Palace were equal in status. They were both behemoths that controlled several territories. Now that Dongchen had openly mocked the Sacred Divine Palace, Lu Chuanqing naturally wanted to make him taste Ningyu's power. After the exchange just now, Lu Chuanqing believed that he had already judged Ningyu's strength. He was slightly stronger than him. Dongchen's strength was on par with his. If Dongchen were to deal with Ningyu, the outcome would not be much different from his. All right, I'll show you what true strength is. Dongchen obviously knew that Lu Chuanqing was trying to goad him into action, but he didn't care. As soon as he finished speaking, he dashed out and dashed toward Ningyu at high speed. As he advanced, Dongchen's entire body became illusory, and black gas emerged from his body. Primordial demonic chi. As the cold words came out of his mouth, a waist-thick black gas rushed toward Ningyu like a wild horse that had broken free of its reins. There should be no one around. Ningyu floated in the air and retracted his perception. In Ningyu's mind, Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing were nothing more than clowns. As long as he wanted to, he could kill them with a flip of his hand. After all, after swallowing a large amount of heavenly tribulation liquid, his strength had made a qualitative leap. With his current strength, unless a half-step heaven immortal expert came personally, he could easily kill anyone. The reason why Ning Yu did not immediately take care of Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing was because he wanted to make sure that there was no one hiding in the surroundings, lest someone came to play the game of the mantis stalking the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. What primordial demonic chi! It's all dregs in front of me! Ning Yu waved the red demon sword in his hand, and in a split second, several sword rays slashed out. After determining that there were no hidden experts in the surroundings, Ning Yu no longer held back. The Yuan Qi in his sea of consciousness tumbled and poured into the red demon sword. Not long after the first wave of sword rays slashed out, Ning Yu slashed out several more sword rays. Whoosh! The overwhelming sword rays rushed toward Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing. Puff, 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 puff. Almost in an instant, the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect were beheaded by the sword rays and died on the spot. The power of each sword ray that Ning Yu slashed out was equivalent to a full force attack from a half-step heaven immortal expert. Among the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect, the highest cultivation was only at the late stage Earth immortal. How could they withstand the attack of the sword rays? I'll kill you! Seeing the 4 Earth immortal experts from the primordial demon sect being killed, Dong Chen roared angrily. Although the primordial demon sect was extremely powerful, every Earth immortal expert was the mainstay of the sect. Losing even one of them was a huge matter. How could Dong Chen not be angry that Ning Yu killed 4 Earth immortal experts with a single move? While being angry, Dong Chen hurriedly waved his hands and displayed all the primordial demonic qi that he carried with him. Great art of destruction! Not only did Dong Chen display his trump card, even Lu Chuanqing used the great art of destruction. At the moment of life and death, who could hold back? This battle had already evolved to the point where it was either you die or I die. The thought of capturing Ning Yu alive in Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing's hearts had long since vanished into thin air. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds, and that was to kill Ning Yu and blast Ning Yu into pieces. As for Ning Yu himself, after slashing out a few sword rays, he leaped and came to Xiao Xian's side. Tell me about the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace, Ning Yu asked. Since he would have to go to a higher plane sooner or later, he might as well understand the power of the primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace first. Otherwise, he would be like a headless fly that didn't know how to deal with them. Gulp! Xiao Xian looked at Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing, who were struggling to resist the sword rays in the distance, then looked at Ning Yu and couldn't help but swallow a mouthful of saliva. He knew that Ning Yu was strong, but he didn't expect him to be this strong. Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing were both at the peak of the Earth immortal level. Even if their combined strength was not as good as a half-step heaven immortal, it was not much weaker. But such 2 powerful warriors were helpless in the face of Ning Yu's sword rays. And Xiao Xian knew that Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing would be defeated sooner or later. Is this the effect of the thunder tribulation fluid? The more he thought about it, the more Xiao Xian yearned for the thunder tribulation fluid. Although the thunder tribulation fluid had appeared when he was undergoing the great tribulation of human immortal, the thunder tribulation fluid that appeared at that time could not be compared to Ning Yu's thunder tribulation fluid, be it in quantity or quality. He had read in the ancient books of his family that in ancient times, when there was a heaven-defying ghost who was undergoing the great tribulation of human immortal, a large amount of thunder tribulation fluid appeared. After the baptism of the thunder tribulation fluid, the heaven-defying ghost directly fought against a heaven immortal with the body of a human immortal. From this point of view, it was not surprising that Ning Yu could easily defeat a peak Earth immortal warrior with the cultivation of a perfected human immortal. The primordial demon sect and the sacred divine palace are similar in strength. They are both powerful sects that rule several territories. Although he yearned for the thunder tribulation fluid, Xiao Xian did not forget Ningyu's question. Chapter 1947. This time, Ningyu was finally moved. Above human immortals were earth immortals, above earth immortals were sky immortals, and above sky immortals were arcane immortals. A celestial immortal who ruled over a territory could be the overlord of a small or even mid-sized territory. But arcane immortals were different. Once they reached the arcane immortal level, they could create a cultivation sacred ground. Furthermore, every cultivation holy land was built in a high-level territory. They commanded the entire territory, and no one dared to disobey them. Seeing that Ningyu was in a daze, Xiao Xian said cautiously, "In my opinion, killing Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing is a very unwise choice." Ningyu raised his eyebrows and stared at Xiao Xian. "You mean you want me to let Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing go?" Xiao Xian hurriedly shook his head. "You can't let them go. I mean, capture them alive." "Haha, there's no need to capture them alive. I'll kill those who disobey me." Ningyu faintly smiled. Soon after, he brandished the red demon sword once again, and slashed out a couple of sword rays in the air. Whoosh! Several sword auras separated from the red demon sword and split into two, attacking Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing respectively. "Damn it! You'll die a horrible death." Lu Chuanqing and Dongchen were already unable to resist the sword auras. Now that Ningyu had sent out several more sword auras, they cursed angrily. However, Ningyu obviously didn't take Lu Chuanqing and Dongchen's curses to heart. He had already made up his mind to kill Lu Chuanqing and Dongchen. After thinking for a while, Ningyu began to contact the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu in the storage ring. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu flew out of the storage ring. "Ningyu, I'm about to break through to the human immortal realm. Why did you call me?" Ning Lu complained to Ningyu as soon as he came out. His face was filled with dissatisfaction. The effect of the five-finger divine pill was very obvious. After devouring the sacred pill of 5 fingers, Ning Lu's body was brimming with energy. It felt as though he was on the verge of assailing the human immortal stage. Apart from Ning Lu, even the Dark Emperor had advanced to the sage realm. His cultivation had skyrocketed to the sage great perfection. As for the human devil, it was even more exaggerated. With the help of the 5-finger divine elixir, the human demon's combat strength had recovered to the peak of Earth immortal realm, even though he did not completely get rid of the hidden illness in his body. "Don't think about assailing the human immortal stage just yet. I have prepared a big gift for you." Ningyu pointed at Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing, who were struggling in the distance, and said, "Both of them are peak earthly immortals. Before you break through to human immortal, devour them first." Devouring a peak earth immortal warrior. Following Ningyu's gaze, Ning Lu saw Dongchen and Lu Chuanqing. This glance caused Ning Lu to freeze on the spot. Because Ningyu had sealed the storage ring, Ning Lu and the others were not very clear about what was happening in the outside world. Now that they saw Ningyu had trapped 2 peak earth immortal warriors, how could they not be shocked? The human demon's reaction was somewhat different from Ning Lu's. His attention was on the sword ray. Although he was injured, the human demon was still a heaven immortal expert at his peak. He could feel an extremely terrifying aura from the sword ray. A peak earth immortal warrior would not be able to display such an aura. Only a half-step heaven immortal warrior could display such an aura. "Ningyu, did you display all these sword rays?" The human demon's gaze fell on Ningyu and asked doubtfully. It was no wonder that the human demon was doubtful. After all, Ningyu was only a peak human immortal, but the power of the sword ray was equivalent to a half-step heaven immortal warrior's full-force attack. A peak human immortal warrior could display such a sword ray? If someone said this to the human demon would probably look at that person as if he was looking at a retard. But now that the human demon saw Ning Yu's confident look, he had a rough guess in his heart. A guess was just a guess. To be honest, the human demon still did not quite believe it. That's right. Ning Yu nodded, then the red demon's sword in his hand swept out again. Swoosh! A waist-thick sword ray flew out and slashed at Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing. Seeing this sword ray fly out, the human demon finally believed the guess in his heart. The power of this sword ray was terrifying to the extreme. Even the human demon did not dare say that he could withstand it. This sword ray was the last straw that broke the camel's back. Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing were struggling to hold on with their last bit of willpower. Now that Ning Yu slashed out the last sword ray, their willpower was directly shattered. After their willpower was shattered, Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing were instantly drowned in countless sword rays. Being surrounded by so many sword rays, it was not easy for Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing to hold on until now. However, not to mention that they were only peak Earth immortals, even if they were peak Earth immortals, they might not be able to break through the encirclement in the face of so many sword rays that were equivalent to the full power of a half-step heaven immortal. Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing spat out blood and fell to the ground on the spot, their aura dropping to the freezing point. Swoosh! Swoosh! Seeing that Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing were defeated, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor rushed out. Among them, Ning Lu rushed towards Dong Chen and the Dark Emperor rushed towards Lu Chuanqing. Ning Yu, this is... Since Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing had been defeated, the human demon did not care. At this time, the human demon's attention was on Xiao Xian. Although Xiao Xian's cultivation was at the late-stage Earth Immortal, for some reason, the human demon felt that Xiao Xian was different from other late-stage Earth Immortals. Hello, my name is Xiao Xian, I'm from the Xiao family. Xiao Xian looked at the human demon and stretched out his hand. I'm good friends with Ning Yu. Good friends. The human demon shook Xiao Xian's hand with a puzzled look. Ning Yu was a native of the celestial spirit state. The human demon did not remember that Ning Yu had a late-stage Earth immortal friend. We just met by chance. Ning Yu shrugged, obviously not wanting to have too much contact with Xiao Xian. Ning Yu had said before that as long as Xiao Xian could get rid of Lu Chuanqing, he would recognize Xiao Xian as a friend. Obviously, Xiao Xian had not done it. Ning Yu did not want to kill people like Xiao Xian, so it was best to draw a line between them. Of course, drawing a line was one thing, but Ning Yu would not let Xiao Xian go. After all, only Xiao Xian, Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an knew that he had the heavenly tribulation liquid. Yi Jiansong and Meng Chang'an would naturally not spread the news, but Ning Yu was still worried about Xiao Xian. After thinking for a while, Ning Yu said, "We shouldn't stay here for long. Let's go to the Thousand Demon Ridge as soon as possible." After saying this, Ning Yu did not wait for Xiao Xian to react. He grabbed Xiao Xian's shoulder and flew in the direction of the Thousand Demon Ridge. Hey, wait for us. Seeing Ning Yu leave, Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor hurriedly shouted. Although their devouring speed was fast, Dong Chen and Lu Chuanqing were late-stage Earth immortals. It would be difficult for them to devour them in a short time. Chapter 1948. The City of Demons. The distance between the City of Demons and the 10,000 Demons Ridge was not too far. From the City of Demons to the 10,000 Demons Ridge, it was only about an hour's journey. Originally, the City of Demons was only a small city with a radius of less than 10 miles. However, as the news of the 10,000 Demons Ridge's origin power spread, more and more people gathered in the City of Demons. In the end, the City of Demons even evolved into a huge city with a radius of hundreds of miles in just a month. The most iconic building in the City of Demons was the Demons Restaurant located in the center of the city. The demon's restaurant had a total of 5 floors, and each floor had a strict cultivation requirement. The first 4 floors required cultivators to be at the supremacy stage, the sage stage, the human celestial stage, and the earth celestial stage. As for the 5th floor, the highest level, it was only open to geniuses on the longevity list or experts who had reached the half-step heaven's celestial stage. The reason why the Demon's Restaurant was called the iconic building of the City of Demons was not only because of the strict cultivation requirement of the cultivators who entered, but also because the Demon's Restaurant had the most timely information source in the entire City of Demons. As long as one could provide something that interested the Demon's Restaurant, one could ask a question for free. Of course, some confidential information could only be obtained with very precious items. Swish. At this moment, a cultivator in black suddenly appeared in front of the Demon's Restaurant. On the surface, the cultivator's cultivation was not too high, only at the sage stage. However, upon closer inspection, one would find that the cultivator in black was not as simple as he seemed. The cultivator in black directly entered the Demon's Restaurant and found the person in charge of the first floor. Without beating around the bush, the cultivator in black took out a crystal ball and handed it to the person in charge of the first floor of the Demon's Restaurant. He said, "I want to know where this person is." The person in charge of the first floor of the Demon's Restaurant was called Zhang Heng. He took the crystal ball from the cultivator in black and looked at it. Then, he said, "What price are you willing to pay?" The cultivator in black did not speak. Instead, he took out a storage bag and threw it out. Zhang Heng used his perception to explore the storage bag for a while and nodded with satisfaction. He said, "The primordial souls of 3 early-stage human celestials. The person you are looking for is in the City of Demons." The black-clad cultivator frowned slightly. After some thought, he tossed out another storage bag. "The primordial spirits of 6 early human immortals. The person you're looking for is in the inner city of the City of Devils." Heng glanced at the storage bag and said calmly, "I want to know her exact location." The black-clothed martial artist flicked his sleeves and a crystal ball flew towards Heng. But Zhang Heng raised his right hand and grabbed the crystal ball firmly. The nascent spirit of an early Earth immortal expert? Zhang Heng's lips curled up slightly when he sensed the soul sealed in the crystal ball. He said, "The person you're looking for is being controlled by the Heaven's Secrets sect. He's in the Heaven's Secrets Hall." Whoosh! Hearing Zhang Heng's words, the black-clothed martial artist's expression instantly turned cold. Before coming here, he had already investigated it. In the City of Demons, there were a few forces that couldn't be provoked. For example, the Sacred Divine Palace, the Primeval Demon Sect, the Tianji Sect. These forces were dominating even in the high-level realms. Rumor had it that there were half-step heaven immortals in these forces, and there were even peerless elites ranked in the top 50 of the longevity roll. Those geniuses all had terrifying trump cards, and their combat power was very strong. The black-clothed martial artist thought for a moment and said, "I heard that the Demon's Restaurant provides a service to find people." Heng didn't answer the black-clothed martial artist. Instead, he held up 5 fingers. "Primordial souls of 5 early-stage Earth immortals?" the black-clothed martial artist asked tentatively. Heng shook his head. "5 mid-stage Earth immortals?" the black-clothed martial artist frowned. Heng shook his head again. "5 late-stage Earth immortals?" The black-clothed martial artist was surprised. Heng smiled and said, "5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals." The black-clothed martial artist almost spat out a mouthful of blood. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals? Why didn't he just rob someone? "The person you're looking for is called Zhao Rui. She has a 1 in a million spirit body." Heng glanced at the black-clothed martial artist and said, "I can tell you with certainty that ever since Zhao Rui came to the City of Demons, many major forces have been fighting over her. Although Zhao Rui has been taken away by the Heaven Secret Sect, the Heaven Secret Sect will still hold a banquet at the Demon's Restaurant in 3 days to discuss how to deal with Zhao Rui. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals. The Demon's Restaurant will replace her with someone else and bring Zhao Rui out in 1 day. What the black-clothed martial artist didn't notice was that Heng had a sinister smile on his face when he said that. Snatch Zhao Rui? What a joke. One must know that even the Devil's Tavern wanted Zhao Rui. Replacing her with someone else from the Heaven Secret Sect was more difficult than reaching the sky. Besides, even if they succeeded, they would never hand Zhao Rui over to the black-clothed martial artist. Thank you. 5 primordial souls of half-step heaven immortals had far exceeded the black-clothed martial artist's bottom line. He clenched his fist at Heng, then his figure flashed, tearing the void and leaving. Buzz. Not long after the black-clothed martial artist left, a crack appeared in the space next to Heng, and an old man appeared. Seeing the old man, Heng quickly bowed and greeted, Elder Jiang. Zhao Rui's elder brother is coming to the City of Demons. Bring a few people to fetch him. Elder Jiang waved his hand and said, as long as Zhao Rui's elder brother is in our hands, we will have the upper hand in the negotiation 3 days later. Understood. Heng's body trembled and he immediately entered the void. After Heng left, Elder Jiang murmured, 1 in 10,000 absolute spirit body. We must snatch it no matter what. Whoosh! Ning Yu and the others didn't know what happened in the Demon's Restaurant. At this moment, Ning Yu and the others stopped when they were still a distance away from the City of Demons. The reason why they chose to stop was not because Ning Yu and the others couldn't fly anymore, nor was it because they were in big trouble. It was because the Dark Emperor, Ning Lu, and Hong Mo had tribulation clouds above their heads. Human immortal tribulation. The 3 human immortal tribulations were coming at the same time. I told you guys to suppress it. Ning Yu looked at the Dark Emperor and Ning Lu helplessly. We suppressed it. Ning Lu and the Dark Emperor expressed their innocence. Suppress my ass. Ning Yu said impatiently. Dong Chen and Lu Chuancheng are both late Earth immortals. How can you suppress it after devouring them? Forget it, forget it. You guys attracted the tribulation clouds yourself, so you should go and cross them yourself. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.